from the hot air balloon capital of the world, this is live coverage of the 50th anniversary edition of the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, powered by ExxonMobil. It's Balloon Fiesta Live. And now, direct from the rooftop studio at Balloon Fiesta Park in Albuquerque, New Mexico, here are your hosts, Glen Moyer and Lloyd Jr.
And good morning and welcome, everyone, to the final Sunday. It's the last day of the 50th Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, powered by ExxonMobil. Thanks for tuning in to Balloon Fiesta Live if you're watching our online feed, and to those of you here on the field, thanks for being here this morning. Once again, I'm Glen Moyer, and with me as always, Lloyd Jr. Good morning, Art. It finally feels like Fiesta this morning too, doesn't it?
It does.
I think we're all bundled up here.
Yeah. By the time you get to day 9, everybody's a little more tired and so cold. And we do have a little bit of a stronger drainage wind with us this morning.
We do, coming out of the north.
Right into our face.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yep.
So it's scarf day and mittens day and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's a bit chilly up here this morning. I guess I could get my chin out from under here probably, but, well, maybe not.
Yeah.
I might put that back up to about right there and feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that north drainage wind is strong this morning, and it comes right into our face here on the rooftop studio.
The good news is, as we look at the winds aloft, based on our looking at the wind profiler or the wind radar detector that we have here at the field, up higher it is slower, so I'm hoping that it will mix down and this drainage wind will let up and let us get a nice day of flying in here on the final day of the 50th Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta.
Yeah, before this goes down as the Balloon Fiesta that had no balloons. I mean, it kind of feels that way sometimes. We've actually had several good days of flying, surprising days in the competition days. The first Saturday morning Ascension was, what everyone dreamed the 50th would be.
Yeah, and actually started the Friday before with our tribute flight. We had a great tribute flight, Albuquerque Aloft as well.
So the opening weekend started off well, and then Mother Nature arrived late to the party and made her presence known.
Definitely, especially in the evenings.
Yeah, especially in the evenings. I can't recall, as I've said before, this is my 33rd year here. I don't recall a fiesta where we've lost every single balloon glow.
I don't remember either.
Not a one. We had sort of a half-baked candlestick one night, but not enough really to call it a glow, I don't think. So, so the 50th is certainly going to be memorable for all the wrong reasons. I was talking with a few of the officials yesterday, and one of the common threads when you say, "Hey, how you doing?" and people answer, "Oh, I'm just living the dream." But this year the dream's a nightmare. So it has, it's been an interesting year, and fingers crossed that we can get what would really be it'd be nice to go out with a bang, have a nice big final day mass ascension.
Yeah, that would be fabulous. I think everybody's looking forward to it, hoping for it. The forecast has been for light winds, so we'll see what happens with this. It really feels like just a strong drainage to me.
I think so, and because all week long we've really been blessed with pretty light winds. Wind typically, except when there were storms in the area, the winds have not been an issue this year. And this kind of feels like, as I say, it finally, really for the first time this week, feels like Fiesta with the strong drainage wind, slightly cooler temperatures. Yeah. This is more what we're used to here on the roof and down on the field. And so let's take that as a positive sign and hope that we can move forward with a really nice final mass ascension so that we can leave with a good taste in our mouth.
That would be good. Our Dawn Patrol and Krispy Kreme folks, though, are on hold due to this strong drainage wind here. They also are hoping. So we are have not yet tried to start our Dawn Patrol show this morning. Of course, our Krispy Kreme glow isn't scheduled till more like 6:30, and sunrise is actually at 7:07. So it's been getting later and later as well.
Okay.
So while we still have our national anthem and all that stuff scheduled at 7, we're still pushing the sunrise time. Although when I was looking earlier, and I don't see the clouds up there that we've seen in days past, so we actually should probably see some sun today.
Well, that would be interesting. I think I was talking with your wife, Bobby, and she said, she had sunglasses at the ready just in case, because we haven't really seen the sun this week, and I can relate to that as well.
Out of the habit of bringing them in from the car.
Yeah, exactly. They've stayed down in the car, although I keep a spare set in my gear bag here, so I've had a set with me a couple of times. I'm excited to hear the national anthem this morning because I'm looking down at our schedule here and I see it's the University of New Mexico Concert Choir. The UNM Concert Choir is here this morning to perform our national anthem. They, of course, will be down on the main stage, which is right center of Main Street, our concession row on the east side of the field. And so, anxious to hear the national anthem this morning. Not to mention that also means the sun will be coming up and maybe things will be getting a slightly bit warmer.
Yeah,
but I knew it was going to be cool this morning, so I added an extra upper layer and I grabbed my gloves and my scarf, and so all in all, things are fairly comfortable.
Well, I just zipped the jacket a
did
little
the
higher as well, but
yeah.
It's gonna turn into a good day.
I hope so.
Hey, Julie on our Facebook feed over here says Glen and Art forever.
Well, it feels like we've been here forever already this week, Julie. We're both, I think, running more on adrenaline than we are anything else. Certainly a little sleep deprived. I think more so for poor Art. This guy does so much work behind the scenes that people really don't know. When we're done, I get out of here pretty quickly and I can get back to my hotel and rest. Art goes to work and edits videos and did most of the work setting up the awards ceremony yesterday and all that kind of stuff. So I know you've got to be exhausted. I am. And
I'm
feeling it a little more as you do.
I'm feeling it a little more this morning. Unfortunately, I still haven't finished the editing of the awards show from yesterday. So I had hoped to have that posted by last night, but the time between the awards ceremony and getting back here just wasn't quite long enough to complete that process. Hey, there's Sid Cutter for us. 50, well done. The statue on the field.
Oh yeah. Isn't that cool? They changed the sign.
Yeah, well done. Yes.
I wonder, was he ever holding up the Coyote sign that just said ouch? If he wasn't, he probably should be.
Yeah. So, we're just trying to carry on in Sid's legacy and do the things that Sid would do to make this the fabulous event it is for one and all.
Yeah, our friend Crystal Ciarza says, Christelle Ciarza says, Art, let me know if you need a Red Bull.
I've been doing the hot chocolate this morning. Thanks, Crystal. Yeah. Good morning, Glendale, Arizona. We've seen you there every week. Glen and Art, are you coming back next year?
Well,
okay.
Well, you
haven't. Well,
we did have a discussion last year. I to be honest with the audience, I had considered last year. I told told Art and Sam Parks, our event director, that this might be my last year, and bless their heart, they had encouraged me to not do that, make that decision. So I didn't, and I will put it this way: if I'm invited back, and as long as I can still get around okay, my mobility is becoming a bit of an issue with my knees. But all things being equal, if I'm invited back next year, I'd love to be back.
And it is my intention to be back as well.
Good.
So we'll be bringing Balloon Fiesta back for year number 7 next year. And, of course, if there's other balloon rallies around the world that would like to have Balloon Fiesta live with your branding on it, we can probably arrange that.
Yeah, I know the Windfire team is ready to pack up, and you and I have always been ready to tag team together.
That's it.
And, I'm thinking maybe, let's see, next year will be 51, and then that'll be 2023. 2024 would be 35 for me. That might be a good year to maybe say goodbye. The idea is I'm going to stretch it out far enough that nobody can match me. See, Tommy was here, Rutherford was here for 25 years.
Right.
And so, well, actually, he may have been here more than that because he did a few solo.
He was 25 with you.
25 with me. But I don't think it was 10 years previous without me. I'd have to check. But yeah, so what I'd like to do is just extend it out to where I've got the longest tenure streak, and then I can leave and see if, you've only got like 6-7 years in here. You got a long way to go, buddy.
I do, but this is Balloon Fiesta number 40 for me.
Well, there you go.
So I just haven't been up here. I've done a number of other things here at Balloon Fiesta, including flying and being on the scoring team, being an ambassador down in Gondola Club, to being with the media group as well. So, year number 40 for me, albeit number 6 up here.
Yeah, well, and it's my 35th overall. I came in 1984 for the first time as a spectator. In 1989, I was here with Tom Hamilton as the new editor of Balloon Life magazine at the time and as a pilot. So in my early years, I was the weekend announcer, but I flew during the weekdays. And then eventually they made Tommy and I a tag team, as you and I are now. So there was a time when on the weekends I'd be up here solo, and then during the weekdays Tommy would be up here solo, and I'd be out flying. So, yeah, 35th Fiesta overall, 33 on the microphone here.
I remember those days when you guys tag teamed, because one of the other things I did was the liaison for the very first 2 America's Challenge balloon races. So I would come up to that scaffolding.
Oh, yeah.
And get you guys to do a little update on America's Challenge.
Yeah. And
so someone on the feed says they're not going up, the yellow flag is up. The yellow flag does not mean that.
They're not going up.
It just means we're on hold. Pilot's briefing has started over there. They'll be getting a weather brief. They'll be making decisions. The winds and weather typically changes once the sun gets over the Sandias.
Yep.
We were already looking at upper winds, and they are much calmer at altitude, so we are expecting those. I'm expecting those. Let's put it that way. Let's just blame it all on me. I'm expecting it to calm down a little bit later this morning, and thinking that we will still get a flight in. So, yep, but we'll wait and see what happens here. We got people ready to audition for our jobs, by the way.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even before I got here to Fiesta, there are folks both here in the States and in Europe that have contacted me about, I'd be interested in being part of the Balloon Fiesta Live team and being an announcer. And, hey, great, go for it. That's kind of how I got started. I just walked up to some balloon folks and said, actually I was asked to announce my first event, which was a small event in Fort Worth, Texas. And I was still working in radio and television, as you and I both have done then. And someone came to me and said, how would you like to be our balloon announcer? And I said, well, what the hell does a balloon announcer do? And then I thought, well, this was in 1985. And I said, well, last year I was out in Albuquerque, and I heard this guy out there, doing some stuff.
Yeah.
And being a former disc jockey. And I said, well, I could probably talk. I knew most of the local balloonists by then.
Sure.
Because I'd been in the community for a while. I said, well, yeah, I could talk about the balloons a bit. And what I always did, because of my radio training, I played music. I would have a CD player and played instrumental ambiance type music so that I didn't have to just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk like we've been doing some of here this year. Yeah. And so that's kind of how I got started. And I had so much fun doing the first event where I was asked to do it in Fort Worth. I went to the Plano Balloon Festival and said, man, I had so much fun doing that last, a few weeks ago over in Fort Worth. I'd like to do that here. And so they let me, and I had another great time. And then the gentleman we talked about yesterday with the Cheshire Cat balloon, or day before, whatever it was, Jack Nelson, ran an event in Mesquite, Texas, and came to me and said, well, hey, would you like to be our announcer? And at that point, I had left broadcast television and was now freelancing. And I said, well, yeah, I'd love to, but I said, I got to earn a living now, so maybe I could charge a fee. And Jack, bless his heart, said, well, I don't really have a budget. But they had, Walmart was a big sponsor, and they had TVs and microwaves and tires and you name it. And I think, my payment for that first gig as a paid announcer was like, I got a set of tires. I think we got a microwave oven for the house. My wife was happy with that. And a few other, odds and ends, maybe some sort of a radio or a blend, I don't know. But it was basically Walmart-type merchandise that were sort of leftover prizes. And that was my first paycheck as a quote-unquote professional
announcer.
Balloon announcer. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of prizes, and we actually did mention the award ceremony yesterday.
Yeah, we gave away some nice prizes.
Gave away some nice prizes and some big dollar checks too.
Well, that too. Money's always a nice prize.
Money's always a great prize to take. You know, it packs very well.
It does. It does indeed. You know, it folds up nice and tight, and fits in your pocket. It's easy to carry home.
So, of course, on Thursday and Friday we had our Ring the Pole competition, which we always do on the special shapes days of Thursday and Friday.
Yep.
So we had 4 winners on the poles. Each of them actually got their own pole.
Yeah.
So that means that each of them went home with $2,000.
That's right.
So there's the 4.
Each of the poles, when we put 5 up each day, Thursday and Friday. So each pole is worth $2,000. As long as you're the only pilot to get the ring on the pole.
That's right.
If you get a ring on the pole and someone else comes along and puts their ring on the same pole, then you split the $2,000 evenly amongst however many pilots are on that pole. In this case, 4 pilots each got their own individual pole, so each took home $2,000.
I like how you put it yesterday. Each of them was smart enough to get their own
That's
pole.
right. Yeah.
Because we've had years when we've had 3 and 4 rings on the same pole.
Yeah. And some events do it slightly differently. Here, we split the money evenly. So if it's $2,000 and 2 people are on the pole, each one takes $1,000. Some events will do it where if there's more than one, if it's a split, the first pilot will get $500, and then everyone splits the remainder of the money. So the first pilot on gets a slightly larger share of the money. But here we just split it evenly. But yeah, each of these 4 guys, Thomas Hora, Lucas Hartzell, Joel Jones, and Chris Sabia, they were all smart enough to put their ring on their very own pole. And of course, as I said, when it happened, when Chris Sabia got his $2,000 pole, you were down on the field as you are in the competition and said, well, that's $2,000 for Chris. And I immediately replied, no, that's $2,000 for Amanda, his wife. And she came up at the award ceremony yesterday. She says, I don't know if you saw me down on the field, but when I heard you say that, I turned around and gave you 2 big thumbs up. She certainly agreed with my my expression there of who was going to get the money for that pole.
She was definitely excited about that.
Yeah, and Chris and Amanda are great friends of mine too, so it was good to see them, and I'm glad to see Chris do well.
We normally pay prize money down for the top 20. This being the 50th, we actually paid prize money all the way through 50th place, and in fact gave 50th place a $500 check and a poster trophy, because we took the official posters,
one of the metal
prints of the posters,
trophies,
turned them into,
which were beautiful.
Yeah, those were great, and then put
gorgeous.
their place on there. So Pat Fogue picked up 50th place here at the 50th.
Now, I can remember, again, going back, we used to pay, this was unique in a sense that we paid to 50th place, but there was a time when each year, like back when we were in the 30s, 20s, and 30s or whatnot, we would pay, if it was like the 31st Fiesta, we would pay down to 31st place. And then the next year would be the 32nd, and we would pay to the 32nd place. But at some point along the way, they switched that and started paying out, I think, just to the top 20, as you said.
So,
this year, that was a bit of, even that, I didn't think of it yesterday, was another sort of a retro homage to how we used to do things here.
So that was, the pilots reacted positively to that, obviously.
Absolutely.
Anytime we say, oh, by the way, here's some money.
Yeah, by the way, we're going to give you guys some money. That usually goes down pretty well.
And we do have the top 10 we'd like to show you and talk about the top 10. And 10th place was Aaron Gebhardt with $1,500. Lonnie Carruthers from Albuquerque, 9th place at $1,750. Bubba Cliver was in 8th at $2,000. Steve Mezzincello with $2,250. Robert Ward for $2,500. Johnny Petrin, who we talked a lot about as we were out there in the competition, $2,750. Joe Zavada, who provided us some great in-balloon camera footage of his approaches, $3,000. Nick Donner, who stepped in for Scott McClinton in the U.S. Bank balloon, picked up $5,000.
I wonder if he's got to split that with Scotty.
I don't know. I don't know. Second,
and then I'll do this one because I got to do it yesterday.
Yeah.
I practiced this name all day long. I never did find if I got it correctly. In second place was Rokas Kostakavicius, who won $7,000.
And was pretty excited. So when we do get that video posted, you'll want to check that out.
He was the one international pilot to make the top 10, by the way.
Exactly. And our overall champion, winning not only that beautiful metal print, $10,000, a medal, and a replica of the Sid Cutter
trophy.
Statue over there. $10,000 for Alan Anderson.
Alan came up later. He was the one who was flying that racer that had the pinks, the whites, the blues, and the blacks, and we never could find his picture.
Yeah.
And he kept and he finally told me, he said, well, we changed balloons, we did that.
Right, yeah.
And so I said, I searched and searched for it every day because we knew he was doing well.
Yeah.
We were talking about him being all over the targets, but I could never find him in our database, and it's because the picture didn't exist in the database.
That's already on my debrief for next year. If you change balloons, You've got to provide. You got to bring the picture if you do it that day.
Hey, we're getting weather at the pilot briefing for Brad Tiemeyer. Let's go and listen in.
Here in the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta Park, if I can get my thoughts right. All right. So the drainage is quite strong this morning, coming from Santa Fe. You can see there's a temperature difference. It's not as strong as what it was earlier, and so our hope is that we're going to see some moderation in that low-lying drainage. That's going to be the biggest concern. We do still have a fair amount of cloud cover across the area here, and if I can play this, let's see here. So given that that's the case, I don't expect the winds to mix down super quickly, but if we do have that speed, especially in the low levels, it wouldn't take a lot to get those speeds to mix down. Speaking of the speeds, pulling up the VAD wind profiler, you can see that we're running generally in that 10 to 15 range right above the surface, so that's something that we're going to have to watch and continue to monitor this morning. Here's the DTEC system here on Fiesta Grounds itself. We've kind of, earlier this morning, we saw that increase up to about 15 knots or so, and then it started dropping off, and I was getting really encouraged and excited about this morning. And then we've just seen a little uptick in that. So that's something that we're going to have to continue to monitor. And if we can get a flight in this morning, we'd want to see this wind drop down just a little bit in the near surface layer. With that, with what we have is a pretty typical box, but it might be a bit taller of a box than what we typically see. So given that that's the case, we'd have this northerly wind here through as much as about 3,000 feet, and then like I talked about earlier, we'd have the southerly winds aloft that would bring you back. But notice that there's not as much speed with that as there is with those low levels. So that's keeping an eye on that near surface layer is the most critical thing. We did run a drone wind as well, and I don't have that up there for you, but I will give it to you anyway. Let's see here. So the latest drone wind is as follows. At 50 feet, we had a wind from 043 at 4 knots, 043 at 4 knots. 100 feet, we had 40 degrees at 7 knots, 40 degrees at 7. 150 feet was 32 degrees at 7 knots. Let's see here. 200 feet was 37 degrees at 8 knots. 250 feet was 39 degrees at 10 knots. 300 feet was 35 degrees at 11 knots. 350 feet is 40 degrees at 12 knots. And 400 feet was 39 degrees at 13. So very similar to what we're seeing in the DTEC, and we just need to keep an eye on this. Hopefully we can see those speeds drop just a little bit, and we'll be able to fly this morning. TAF outlook is good as well for this morning at Albuquerque Sunport, 360 at 7 knots, visibility greater than 6 miles. Few 5,000, broken 7,000, overcast 20,000. Similar Double Eagle, 0105 knots, visibility greater than 6 miles. Broken ceiling at 6,000, overcast at 20,000 feet. So really, it's more typical of a normal morning here in Albuquerque. We just need to keep an eye on those speeds and the low levels to see and make sure that those drop off so we can have a good safe flight this morning. Okay, for our weather helper, Duncan ran back and got a new pie ball. And made it back in time. We have Yehan helping us out this morning. Do we have a launch director in the area to give Yehan the permission to launch?
Now I know why Dawn Patrol decided not to go. Hey, while you're watching that, just another announcement. I understand the Red Rock Festival. not necessarily the weather, it's also the driving road conditions, and it's just not right for them to have everybody come into town there. So the Red Rock Festival has been canceled for tomorrow.
Oh, man.
All right, I think we've seen enough on that one. We'll continue to watch the detect system, radar system, and we'll make some further calls. But I do want to call your attention. Let me change the screen here.
So what Henry Rosenbaum, our balloon meister, was referring to is what started out as just kind of something to do after Balloon Fiesta on your way back to California.
Yeah, it was.
And that was to stop in Gallup, New Mexico.
Those that pack up and head west to go home, as I used to when I was living in Sacramento, California. You pass through Gallup, which does host its own very fine Red Rocks balloon rally later in the year.
First weekend in December.
Yeah, and so, but it became kind of an unofficial thing that if you're headed west on your way home, you just stopped on the Monday morning after Fiesta and did a quick flight there at Red Rocks.
A little more getting your kicks on Route 66.
There you go. And then more and more people began to hear about it. Look at that. Look at the moon. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And that looks very much like a Halloween moon, as we are in the month of Halloween, of course. But anyway, more and more people heard about that and started making, and then it wasn't just pilots who were headed west to go home. It was just pilots who said, hey, why not? We've been here 9 days, let's make it 10.
Yeah.
And go out and take a day. And I even did that one year when I had rented my balloon to a UK pilot, so they didn't have to ship their balloon here. And since my balloon was here, and I had a pretty flexible schedule, why not?
Why not? It's a great place to
our whole
fly
gang,
balloons.
yeah, our whole gang from Louisiana that was here joined the party, drove out to Red Rocks, and had a great flight that morning. One of my favorite places to have ever flown. I only have flown there that one time because I never was able to justify being out here for 10 days, turn around and go back to Louisiana, or in some cases in the earlier years when I was still living in Texas, and then turn around and come all the way back out here in December. So I never attended the official Red Rocks rally. So I got that one time. But yeah, we hear now Henry saying that
not going to do that
not
tomorrow.
Gonna. They're asking people not to do that tomorrow because of not just weather, but apparently road conditions. And I'm not sure what the reference there is to, if that's weather related or something else.
Yeah,
but
it could be. I haven't obviously been a little busy here and not paying attention
Just a
to what's
bit.
happening around the rest of the state.
Yeah, so Henry making the announcement that the unofficial Red Rocks balloon rally that happens on the Monday morning after Balloon Fiesta has now been canceled. So Mother Nature just won't give up.
So maybe pilots and crews who would be headed to Gallup tomorrow should go north instead of west and go up to Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They would love to see you up there. The city of Las Vegas, of course, sponsored our fast track jumps in all of our evenings this year.
Yes.
And so that was a great deal for the city of Las Vegas to jump up and do that.
Is that a nice flying area? I've never been up to Las Vegas.
I don't know about flying there, but it's certainly a great place to visit.
To visit, yeah.
There's some nice things to do there, some historical places. Visit places that you've seen on television and on the big screen because a number of movies have been shot there. So that would be that'd just be a good visit New Mexico thing to do, the
Sure.
city of Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Okay.
And it's only an hour north of Santa Fe, 2 hours north of Albuquerque, so it's just as close as going out to Gallup.
Yeah, well, and a few years ago, I have an artist friend who shares my Scottish ancestry and my love of Scotland, and she has a home in Santa Fe, a studio there. She's just finished building her studio and home there, and so one Monday morning after Balloon Fiesta, I just extended my stay and drove up to Taos. First time I'd been up to see the gorge there. That was kind of fun. And now that's an area that's flyable. I know Johnny Lewis, our good friend, he runs a balloon ride business up there. So that would be another option. A little further away, but, if you're looking to get one last flight in before heading home, wherever home may be, maybe a visit to Taos might be in order as well.
Well, you could go to Las Vegas and right on to Taos.
Right on up there. That's right. Yeah.
All those folks that are going north.
Although if you were going to fly, you'd probably do it the other way around. You'd drive up and fly in Taos and then hit Las Vegas on your way back.
That would be, you could go up and fly the gorge. There's the Rio Grande Gorge Bridge up there in Taos.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the bucket list things for a number of pilots to be able to fly through the gorge.
Right.
And around the bridge, but especially down into the gorge.
Into the gorge, yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
that's one of the things I'd like to do. I haven't done that either yet. So
No, I haven't either. As I say, the first time I'd ever even seen the gorge and the bridge was, as I say, just a few years ago when I went up to Taos to visit with my artist friend. And she's actually over in Scotland right now. I've been watching her social media, and she's back over in the Glen area in Scotland, and so wishing her well. Look at that moonshot. Where is that? Is that the north end looking, or let's see, the sun rises in the east, the moon sets in the west.
Should be back over here.
So it's probably over our shoulders behind us somewhere.
Actually, I can just see it through the tree. If you kind of lean forward, you can kind of lean back and farther to your left.
Oh,
through,
yeah.
Through the tree.
Yeah, through the trees.
Through
okay.
the trees there.
Yeah, okay.
We have this great backdrop in our interview set here, and it does kind of block our views to the side a little bit, but so we have to kind of move to see it.
And then there's a nice tree right there as well.
It's getting bigger every year.
It is, yeah.
Amazing how that happens.
Yeah.
So if you've just joined us here on the field or on our live stream, we are a yellow flag, and on a slight delay this morning, our Krispy Kreme Glow folks and our Dawn Patrol show have decided to put things on hold. A little bit quick drainage winds. Those are the winds that literally drain down the mountain and down the valley, and that's why they have that name. And they're out of the north and just a little bit fast right now. Winds higher up are slower, and typically as the sun comes up, the winds mix down, and that should slow things down here. We basically had all that confirmed by our chief meteorologist, Brad Meyer, at Pilot's Briefing just a few moments ago. So we're going to kind of sit here on hold a little bit, and hopefully things will calm down and we'll be able to get a flight in on this final day.
Sitting on hold is something we are well practiced at this week.
Year.
Someone in our Facebook feed, the one thing I've learned is, unfortunately, you can't wear gloves and operate your iPhone at the same time.
Right.
Because it doesn't, touchscreen doesn't work. And trust me, I have bought every pair of touchscreen gloves that exist, and I haven't found a pair that are worth a you-know-what yet.
I can attest to that. Every day for a couple of years, he had a different pair of gloves he was trying out.
Yeah, and it may in part have to do with the fact that I do keep a glass screen
probably has
cover on, so I have to get through two layers. I've got a layer of protection there.
Exactly.
But at any rate, it's frustrating because it's cold when you take your hand off to. So I've forgotten who it was that asked the question, but the question was, well, given the weather, if it's not flyable, then please explain why a static display can't happen. Well, it's very simple. You hear us talking about the drainage winds and how fast they are. The drainage winds out of the north are the surface winds.
Right. And
so if it's not flyable because of rain in the area, which fortunately this morning that is not the issue. The issue this morning is simply wind speed.
As you can see by the flags,
the winds on the surface are very fast, and that's why we don't do a static display. If it were just an issue of winds aloft, but it was fairly calm on the ground, we could then consider doing a static display, which simply means stand the balloons up and keep them here on the field for people to see them. But this morning, it's too windy, both aloft and especially on the surface, to launch and fly safely. And if that's the case, then you certainly don't want to do a static display, because trying to inflate a balloon in high wind and then hold it in place just puts more and more stress on the equipment, and it's also very difficult work for the pilot and crew.
And sets you up because as you talked about, the envelope and the fabric kind of caving in due to the wind speeds, you're putting that big old burner up there.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is have that burner going and have the wind blow that fabric right into the burner.
Because then, as I like to say, you end up with a picture window in your balloon where you didn't used to have one.
That's it.
And your pocketbook gets a little lighter because of the expense. So static displays can only happen when the weather is quite calm on the surface. static displays will occur when the winds aloft are too fast, or there might be, as we've had during the week, rain in the area, something of that nature, but it's calm enough on the ground that we can safely stand the balloons up and do a static display. When you have high surface winds, like we do today, you cannot do a static display.
So we are at the last day, day 9 of the 50th Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. Already plans are underway for number 51 in 2023. The theme for next year, A View from Above. And it will become the latest start of Balloon Fiesta at any time because we always start on the first Saturday of Balloon Fiesta. This year, the first Saturday happened to be October 1st. So this is kind of as early as it can start. Next year, the first Saturday is the 7th of October. And so that will be as late as it could start because obviously the 8th is going to be a week and a day after that Saturday. So there's our new bumper sticker, A View from Above, with the dates and the year on it. Of course, we'll continue to be powered by ExxonMobil. And you can pick these bumper stickers up at many locations here on the field. All of our information booths have them. Many of our merchandise tents have them. They're kind of almost anywhere where there is a Balloon Fiesta official presence, you should be able to pick up one of these bumper stickers. And if you're watching us online, not here in the Albuquerque area, when our online store comes back on Wednesday, you'll be able to get a bumper sticker there as well. Hey, you know, there is something else that we can talk about today, that we can announce today. And that is, and I was going to prepare a graphic, but I forgot. So we have this really cool retail jacket that we have made and have been selling out here for the 50th.
Yeah.
It has got, it's a black jacket. It's got some turquoise trim. It says Balloon Fiesta on the inside of the lip of the zipper. On the back, it has that.
It has that turquoise diamond that we see on the Fiesta Gold balloon.
Exactly.
Yeah,
with the 50th
balloon
logo in it and the replica of the original 13 balloons around it.
Right.
That jacket has been extremely popular here at Balloon Fiesta, so much so that we have pretty much run out of them and have very limited sizes left. Starting on Wednesday, we are going to take pre-orders for one more set of those jackets.
Oh, excellent.
So if you were looking to get one of those retail jackets, we're going to open it up for about 10 days for you to place an order for those retail jackets. And then we'll shut the orders off, we'll place the order, and we should have them in about a month, which means you would have them in time to send out and have for the cold winter season and definitely by the holiday season, Christmas, etc.
Awesome.
So, again, that starts on Wednesday.
I might jump in on that myself.
Yeah, those are
because
really
they are really
nice
jackets, and that's a very special logo.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I don't have a Fiesta jacket or two.
Yeah.
But that might be one well worth having.
So that sales. Okay, that sale will start on Wednesday online, balloonfiestastuff.com. It will only be available for about 10 days. Once you sign in, you'll be able to see that. And then all the pre-orders we have at that point, we will place an order for those jackets. We've already been talking to the factory. They're already gearing up. So we will have those made and to you in time for the holiday season.
Outstanding, outstanding.
Ruth has caught up with a couple of our Balloon Fiesta officials. So let's run over to Ruth via the magic of cameras and technology.
Henry Rosenbaum, Balloon Meister, and Sam Park, Director of Operations, know and they give credit to how much everyone has worked all week. But I got to tell you, I don't think anyone works as hard as these two guys do. Henry, how do you cope with the weather day after day after day with the challenges we've had?
Well, it is that. It's just the weather. And, I mean, we've got an excellent staff here that's given us excellent data. But more importantly, we've got extra plans that are in place that when we have to put something like last night, when we did some sheltering in place, those practices were put in place many, many months ago, and we exercised them yesterday, and it worked out perfectly.
It really did. And you're running the hot air side of the event primarily. And Sam, You've been not only working with Henry and were the Balloon Meister before Henry, so you get it, but also with the gas race and our disappointment that that didn't happen, but the whole event, and you're putting alternate plans in place all the time. Are you exhausted yet?
I think exhaustion was 2 days ago. No, it's you run on adrenaline until the last day, then you go home and take a long nap. It's a wonderful event, but we have to recognize it's the largest scale event like this in the world. But you couldn't do it without a great team of balloonists and volunteers. So you just have to work through your tiredness and get the job done. It's wonderful.
Now, you guys were talking up here during the briefing this morning about the schedule when you come in. Tell me how your day goes from the time you wake up and what time that is.
I'm up at 3:30 and I make my rounds throughout the park to make sure that all the guest gates are open and everyone's in place before we open up our gates at 4:30. Then I go to Henry's briefing at 4:45. And then from there, as soon as this briefing is over, as it just concluded, then I basically go throughout the entire park.
And Henry, your day starts even earlier.
It does. I'm up at 3 o'clock, and our weather team is at the facility at 3 o'clock doing weather balloons and looking at weather, and then we get together for a pre-briefing at 4:15. And then we have our all the team leaders are in there at 4:45, and then we do this briefing at 6, which we just finished, and we're not done. I mean, we're going to go down here. We have another tower that we relocate to, and that's where we monitor all the balloon activities and make calls from that. So we're connected with this event up until the 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock time frame when the balloons are on the ground.
I don't know anyone who works as hard as the two of you to make this event the wonderful, happy event that it is. So I want to thank you both. We couldn't do it without you, and I'm happy to be back here with you this year again.
Really appreciate everything that you do, and also Balloon Fiesta Live that takes this show around the world.
Well, thank you. Thank you both so much. Art and Glenn will send it back up to you on the stage. These guys have stuff to do.
I'm sure they do. Thank you, Ruth. And it's good to hear there are other folks who get up at dark 30 besides just our team, because we're up at about usually, especially on Mass Ascension weekends, in the 3:30 range too. At least that's usually my alarm time.
Well, we're awake when we get those first pieball briefings and readings, those types of things. You know, the other thing this year especially, usually things are really nice and smooth, and you do get a chance to get to bed at some point in the evening.
Yeah, there is some nap time available.
A couple of nights this week, obviously after that rainstorm a couple of nights ago that soaked all of our special shapes balloons, these guys were up pretty much all night helping balloonists get to places indoors where they could start drying out the balloons. That happened overnight, and it continued throughout the day yesterday, and it's been really great for the entire community to step up. Hey, we've got a time period here where you can bring some balloons here, and then someone else says, and we could do this time with a couple of balloons, and then there's another place. All the city, I mean, Rio Rancho, Albuquerque, UNM, the University of New Mexico, and many, many more places have said, we've got space that you could inflate, that you don't typically stand it up, but
cold
inflate it inside the building and let a fan blow the air through it, trying to blow dry it with cold air. And that takes a few hours, especially as wet as some of those balloons got. So we wanted to say thanks to all the organizations and agencies and all those people that reached out and said, yeah, come on, bring them over, let's go.
Yeah, and that was one of the many duties that fell onto Sam's shoulders, because I was up here, as a lot of the officials were, during and after the storm Thursday night. And Sam was on the phone already, calling some of those facilities and making negotiations to be able to get some of those balloons into those indoor spaces where they could be dried out. And then I also was able to overhear Sam on the phone at one point Thursday night saying, yes, tell APD, clear the way, move those buses onto the field, when we brought our park and ride buses onto the field so that people could shelter in place there. Those are duties that you don't expect to have to organize and deal with, but it all fell kind of to Sam's shoulders, as well as many of the other officials. And as always, they stepped into the breach and did, I thought, a remarkable job.
Well, with Sam's title being the Director of Operations, anything that has to happen falls
to his shoulders.
Yep.
Yeah, he's not just in, like as Ruth said, Henry deals with the hot air balloons. That's his area.
Right.
Operations.
He helps with the others, but
Yeah.
his main focus is the balloons.
Exactly, but operations takes in even a vendor whose electrical system power cord isn't working. Technically that falls under Sam's bailiwick, and they all of our officials do just an incredibly great job, and a lot of them go unsung many times over. So
there was just a shot
Congratulations
of
to them.
Yes, and thanks for their work. There was just a shot of the Hot Minute balloon trailer, which
Yeah.
happens to be the ExxonMobil
Mobil
balloon
balloon.
of Tristan McLean.
Well, one of two.
Yes, that was Tristan's, and Matt McClinton has been flying the second one. If we do get our flight off this morning, we should have our balloon camera in the basket with Tristan this morning. So
Excellent.
we'll have some good pictures from there, as we have every morning we've been able to get up and fly.
In our Facebook group, before we did all that by going to pilot briefing and whatnot, I think it was a gentleman named, I think it was Connor Nelson, said, "Hey, commentators, where are you? We want to see you live."
Like live and in person, or just live on the camera?
Well, I think live and in person was his gosh, it's been a long week. My brain doesn't work anymore. I think that
intent?
was the implication or his
Got it.
intent. Yes. Well, we're at our rooftop studio where we always are. So people don't know what rooftop that is. And we obviously can't host a crowd of people up here, so
No.
it's not an area where the public spectators can just come up willy-nilly.
But and there we are. If you see the ExxonMobil tent,
you
we're
can
the
see
blue
all those
spot.
bright lights with the light blue square behind us. Well, that's
us.
That's the rooftop studio. That's where we are. We're up behind the ExxonMobil
So maybe
tent.
if I see, I can wave. Yeah, we can wave, and you can see that's us there.
Yeah, that's where we hang out.
So while you can't join us up here on the studio, you can certainly come by right below us.
Yeah, if you
and
walk
see
up, there's a
and
little
wave.
pathway between Sponsor Hospitality and the ExxonMobil tent, and if you really want to see us that badly, then you can kind of walk up that path and look up, see us from downstairs.
We probably
But-
look better on air, though, just because of the lighting and that kind of stuff.
Well, we've
even though we
always-
don't do hair and makeup.
No, we don't, and that becomes brutally obvious the closer you get to the rooftop studio. So you may not want to get much closer than just downstairs looking up. But yeah, access up here is somewhat restricted, and has to be, obviously, because we're an on-air broadcast. You don't have people wandering into TV studios when they're on the air at the 6 o'clock news. Well, we're kind of the same thing.
So we do see some air being blown into a balloon. You can kind of see how it is kind of rocking and rolling as the wind kind of catches that fabric. That
I'm
should be
thinking-
our balloon of the day.
I'm thinking that might be the Phillips 66 balloon, too.
Well, there's the other shot.
Oh, no.
So it is the
okay, so it's the
KOB balloon.
KOB balloon. Well, same color theme, but
Yes, it is.
But okay, yeah, I was basing that off the black and white checkers at the top, but yeah, now we can see it is the KOB balloon.
770 KOB. They, of course,
Or
asked,
KKOB.
Well, 770 KOB is where I was going. It was their 50th birthday.
Oh,
and
okay.
They brought, got together with Sid Cutter and said, hey, we know that you have a balloon here in Albuquerque. Do you think you could bring it out to our birthday party? And so, yeah, we could do that. And then, well, do you got any friends? You could have them bring theirs, which kind of started the whole conversation about, well, yeah, we'll have a balloon race, and not even knowing what a balloon race was. And, well, how many balloons would it take to set a record? That's the kind of guy, that's how Sid's mind worked. How can we do it bigger, better, and more entertaining, and just really promote the city and the state? And so managed to get commitments from 21 folks to bring their balloons here. 13 actually made it here. Some of the pilots made it here without their balloons, some transportation issues. And so they expected a couple hundred people to show up at Coronado Center, and somewhere on the order of 20,000 people showed up. And then that was such a hit that they were, Sid and one of the radio people, Tom Rutherford, who you've heard us mention, got together and put together the first World Hot Air Balloon Championships the very next year. So we've had this partnership with what was then 770 KOB. As they split from the TV station, they became KKOB.
Right.
And now this year, in their 100th year, because remember, They were 50 when
it
we
was
started
their
at
50th
0.
birthday party when we started, yes.
So they are now 100, and they are now both at 770 on the AM dial, but also at 96.3
on your FM dial.
There you go.
Yep.
So a 50-year partnership as we become 50 and KKOB becomes 100
well, and then,
years on the air.
Yep, and then we had the couple that were married here this week, and we celebrated with them and reminded them that, you know, their 50th wedding anniversary will now be the 100th Balloon Fiesta. So,
and the 150th year of being on the air for KKOB.
That's right, and I think they were promised free tickets for their 50th wedding anniversary to the 100th Balloon Fiesta. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to honor that commitment. You know, we hope they certainly hope they have 50 years of wonderful marriage.
Well, we have it on the internet, so it will stay forever. And
well, that's true. There is a record of it now.
There is.
Yeah.
There is.
And you know, who knows? Maybe you and I'll still be here for the one. I kind of doubt it. I certainly won't be. That would be something. Let's see. I would have to be to make another 50 years. I'd have to be 120 years old. Yeah, probably not going to make it.
Yeah. Ron Curry has flown the KOB balloon, the KKO balloon, in all of its incarnations for as long as I can remember. There may have been someone flying it before that, but Ron Curry has flown those for us and is flying the KKOB balloon this morning. Less than 10 minutes to our national anthem and our balloon of the day as Ron gets the KOB balloon. You know, to me, it will always be KOB. I know it's officially KKOB, but one of the powerhouse radio stations, one of the first ones as they started in the early days, many radio stations only had 3 call letters.
That's true. That's true. And the ones I got the button quick enough that time.
You did.
Little behind-the-scenes joke there. I just had to sneeze. Sorry.
Thank you for not doing it in my ear.
Yeah, and you're welcome, because I did. I did that in everyone's ear just the other day.
So someone wants to know, are all the balloons getting ready or just the KKOB balloon? The KKOB balloon is the balloon of the day. So that is the first balloon we stand up.
Right. So they have that's a kind of an honor they get to get a little recognition for being the balloon of the day.
And we want them up in time for the national anthem. We do see some balloon pilots starting to rig their systems in anticipation of the winds coming down and a green flag. So we're just going to continue to watch what happens. And remember that if we were to put up a green flag or when we put up a green flag, it's still always the pilot's discretion whether they fly or not.
The story I was going to tell a moment ago before I started sneezing was that when you talk about 3 call letters, you also have a division across the United States, typically the Mississippi, where radio or TV stations both that are west of the Mississippi, their call letters begin with the letter K, and those on the east of the Mississippi, theirs start with a W. Except for in some cases very old broadcasting facilities that were grandfathered in when that law came into being, and I don't recall when that was passed. And I've had the opportunity to work for 2 of those, and that was WOAI in San Antonio, Texas, which still retains its W call letter, and WFAA Radio and Television in Dallas, Texas, that is the same. But generally, radio and TV stations that are west of the Mississippi, their call signs will begin with a K, as KOB and KKOB, and those east will start with W's.
Someone wants to know if all the balloons are going up there, obviously in the parking lot, trying to decide whether to use their ticket to come in or not.
Well, the ticket won't be any good tomorrow, so why would you hold on to it?
Yeah.
Why would you wait? Besides, you've got access to all sorts of other things here at Balloon Fiesta Park if you come in. So come on in and be part of the crowd. There's a good crowd here this morning. Just come on and join the party.
There's Ron Curry putting some heat inside the balloon, so we'll see the balloon stand up now as that cooler air inside becomes warm, then hot, becomes less dense, and therefore it rises and will lift the balloon upright.
as you heat the air in the balloon, I like to say the molecules of the air begin dancing around because they do. The air starts to kind of become turbulent inside the balloon, not so much that it's something you can visualize.
Well, you see some of that as it comes up.
You see a little bit of it as the fabric starts to react, and that's because the heated molecules begin to run around and dance around and move around inside the envelope, and that's part of what helps the balloon to rise. They're all those little air molecules are trying to rush up to the top of the balloon.
And I heard a cheer come up as Ron stood the balloon up.
Well, we haven't seen that many balloons on a day-to-day basis here this year, so we're all excited to see the balloon come up. The sky is definitely getting lighter. We do have some cloud cover again today. Not as much as perhaps we've seen in past. There's some open patches up there. Certainly out to the west behind the KOV balloon.
So I just heard some wind information being passed along through our officials and to the balloon of the day. And there's the 5-minute cue for the stage. So Ron will get about 5 minutes here. And when we get to the national anthem, there'll be a decision made whether he actually flies off with the colors or just stays standing.
Well, fingers crossed, we'll see the balloon get airborne.
Yep. It does feel like it's trying. It does feel like it's trying to calm down a little bit here. All right, we just got the word. Ron has decided that he will stay static and not actually lift off this morning. But again, we will have our national anthem. And we do have the, I believe, have the flag attached to his balloon. So with all the folks around there as well as the launch directors, we will, as I like to say, officially get things underway for the morning. And I see a few more balloon burners being tested. Part of the setup of your balloon is to connect the burners through their hoses to the propane tanks, check for leaks, and check for the amount of pressure that you have, propane pressure. You don't want too much because the flame would be too high and could potentially start causing some fabric damage at the top. But you also don't want it too low so that when you burn, you don't get enough heat to keep the balloon in flight. Each manufacturer has a different pressure range that they say is the operational range, and those burners all have pressure gauges on them. So part of the pre-flight process, hook it up, fire the burner off, check for leaks, check for the proper pressure before you lay it down and pull the fabric out. You don't want to unpack it if something's not going to work for you. So you go through all of those pre-flight operations as well as setting your instruments. You have to set those before each flight so that you get an accurate altitude reading. 3 instruments required in a hot air balloon: a temperature sensor at the top, a variometer for how fast are you going up and down, and an altimeter. What altitude are you flying at? Many pilots will add things like GPS, tracking maps that use GPS to give you a moving map in the, just like you would have in your car on the GPS. We have it in the balloon so that we know where we are over the ground. You'd think we can see the ground, which we can, but there are different parts of the airspace that we can be in. There are places that really don't want balloons around them, and so we put those on a map so that we know to avoid those or fly high over them, whatever the restrictions might happen to be. And here you're getting a chance to look at one of the tanks down inside Tristan's balloon. There's the fuel gauge right in the center. The knob at the top, the valve, that's going to feed his main valve, and the red one would be for a whisper valve or a fire 2 or a metering valve. Each manufacturer calls it something else. It's a separate way to get fuel into the burner if you needed so. And I'm not sure what the other piece of equipment he has mounted in that tank is. Could be part of a Well, not sure. So we won't go there. We are now 1 minute away from our national anthem. Our national anthem this morning will be performed by the University of New Mexico Concert Choir. And again, we're coming up on 7 o'clock and the official start of our activities here on day 9 of the 50th Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, powered by ExxonMobil. Our balloon of the day, 96.3 News Radio, KKOB, being piloted by Ron Curry. And ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the stage for our national anthem, now performed by the UNM Concert Choir.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, the land of the free,
The UNM Concert Choir, our national anthem, and a salute to America by a number of our pilots with their candlestick burners lighting up our early morning sky. So as we mentioned, the balloon of the day, the KKOB balloon, Ron Curry, has decided to stay on the ground at the moment. We keep hearing reports of the winds at the north end of the field where they seem like they're trying to calm down. So the yellow flag, I believe, is still up as we... Yep, they're confirming on the radio that the winds are starting to trend down. So we still believe we're going to be able to get flights off here in just a little bit. So just monitoring the radio communications between the weather folks to our balloonmeister Henry Rosenbaum, to our launch directors as well. We are hoping and still planning to attempt to get a launch off this morning, that we would attempt to do that before we would set other balloons up that may want a static, although as Glen was explaining just a few minutes ago, the breezes are still such that it's not the best to be standing your balloon up. As we watch the KKOB balloon, you can see the side kind of caving in a little bit as the wind comes from that direction. So trying to do a static balloon and keeping your balloon standing and having the side of the balloon cave in with this wind that we have coming out of the north, not necessarily the best. If you're going to stand your balloon up at a situation like this, best to kind of get it hot and get it up and go fly.
Absolutely. Much better, much easier to launch and fly-in winds than to tether or do a static display. As you're talking about the winds, Art, one of our viewers in the Facebook page says, Jennifer Verhoog is asking, is there a term for the wind that travels along the river? Drainage wind comes down from the mountains and creates ground. Let me hit the C more so I can see the rest of it. Creates ground wind. So is there a term for wind that would travel along the course of a river? I've never heard one.
I can't think of one either.
So
because it is kind of following along and following the river, as the river drains to a lower lake location, I would think you could call those drainage winds as well.
I would suppose you could.
Yeah.
I know was it you I was talking with about flying at Billings, Montana one year? If not, it was someone here at the park, and I was describing how up in Billings, the river has this huge bluff all along it, and so you would launch, and the surface winds would carry you toward the river, toward that bluff, and you're flying along in your balloon, and it looks like you're just going to crash into the side of this rock wall.
Yeah.
And just as you cleared the shoreline and get out into the river, you're going straight ahead, and then you just suddenly turn and go, and the wind flowing down the river actually grabs your balloon, and you turn and flow down the river with it, as opposed to going on and crashing into the bluff there. It was really quite a unique phenomena of nature and of the landscape, the way the wind flowed up there in Billings.
It has to go around it. It can't go through it.
Exactly. And so, that was a case where there was a definite difference in wind flowing along a river, but I've never heard a term for that. So I guess the answer to the question would be no, or at least not one that Art and I are familiar with.
Ruth Lind has found someone else to chat with on this last day.
She's good at that.
She is very good at that. So let's go down and check in again with Ruth Lind.
That's the favorite part of my job, is talking to these people. This morning I am with Katie and Mike Heffron. They're from right here in Albuquerque. We were attracted by the sight of their really cool trailer and ground lights, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I want to talk to Katie, because Katie is the crew chief, and she has the most awesome job. Katie, tell me about some of the things that are your responsibility running this team.
Good morning. My favorite part about running the team is just working with so many new people, so many new crew that want to come out and help, and just guiding them to teach them how we set up the balloon. And the most important thing for me is just to make sure that the balloon is connected properly to the basket, so we have a good, safe flight. And then, chasing is so much fun with everybody running all over town, trying to find out where he's going to land and everything. So just making sure, his landing zone is a safe zone to land in, no fences, no power lines, and that kind of thing. So.
And what do? You get to a landing spot, and you're probably the first contact with the landowner. How does that usually go?
Usually it goes pretty well. We get a lot of people out in their pajamas and their slippers, which is always a lot of fun. But people are excited when we want to land in their yard. We wake a lot of people up in the morning banging on their doors, but they're always very welcoming. Yes, please land in our yard, and they come out and join us. So,
what's usually the first thing you say to them?
We just say, hey, our balloon, we're here. Can we land in your yard? Is that okay with you? And come out and join us. Come and see the balloon.
Wonderful. Now, Hef, you designed this wonderful light system. Your trailer, and then we have lights all around your... How did that even occur to you? Where did that all come from?
Well, when we started flying Dawn Patrol, we needed more light, and to give us some light to be able to put the system together, and then it just started to build from there. We decided to do a light show with our trailer and a light show in and around the balloon system also.
I wouldn't be surprised if you get recruited by the drone guys pretty quick. I mean, this is really beautiful. So are these all LED lights, and how are they powered?
Yeah, they're all battery-operated LED lights. The ones off the trailer, we wire right in with the trailer lights, and it has a remote control where we can change it to dance with the music or just do solid different lighting.
Very, very cool. Hef and Katie, we're so glad you're with us today. Enjoy whatever the day brings. We don't know. Static, light, who knows? Anyway, back to Glen and Art on the stage.
Thank you, Ruth. And, we get a lot of great comments that are compliments of the work that Art and I do together. So I just wanted to share this. Ruth, I hope you're still listening, because Barbara Lay Delgado says, great interviews and great job, Ruth. Love listening to you every morning. Hope all get to fly, and here's to Fiesta 51. So your efforts certainly appreciated by our audience as well, Ruth, and I would echo that. Great job down there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, Ruth always does a great job, always finds just the best people on the field to talk to and ask the right questions and just bring you things that you probably don't see out here on the field yourself.
Well, and just as the evolution of Balloon Fiesta Live from just being field announcers, which is what Tom Rutherford and I used to do, talking over the PA, just as you brought Balloon Fiesta Live into being, and we bring a new element with people being able to see the balloons and watch all of the activities going on, Ruth being on the field adds even a newer element,
yes.
Another element, by bringing us the personal stories of all the people here, whether they're spectators or vendors or pilots, crew chiefs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I agree, she does a great job of finding just the right people to talk about. They always have an interesting perspective to share. And I've done that street reporter job back in my days, and it's not an easy job to do. And Ruth does it effortlessly. It makes it look very easy and well done, but it is a difficult job, and she does it very well.
It brings that element to Balloon Fiesta Live, I think, that I like to talk about. Come to Balloon Fiesta, experience it in person, but then go home and watch it again on Balloon Fiesta Live, because
and see what you missed.
See what you missed,
yeah.
Frankly, yeah.
Because I've told pilots for years when I meet new pilots and they say, "Oh, I've always wanted to go fly at Fiesta." My advice always is, the first year, don't go as a pilot. Go as a spectator.
Good advice.
Just go and watch and see how it all works and how it happens and how big it is and all the things the pilots have to deal with. Don't do that as a rookie pilot and come in here and you can get flummoxed and just overwhelmed by
yes.
everything that's going on.
Yes.
Come the first year as a spectator, just enjoy it, soak it all in, get the lay of the land. Then if you still want to come and fly here, come and fly.
I also coordinate all of our official photographers here at Balloon Fiesta, have for the last 4 or 5 years. And every year we get a few new ones, and I try to explain to them how big a job this is, how big the field is, how the number of balloons in the sky, the number of people. And so I encourage them to go back and watch our previous Balloon Fiesta Live shows to get an idea.
Well, that's a great idea.
And they still show up, and then after about 2 days they go, "Oh my God, I had no idea."
Yeah. Because I used to tell people when I first started coming out here myself, I said, Fiesta is like sensory overload. If you've never been here, you can go to a small community balloon event with 20, 30, maybe even 50, maybe even as much as 100 balloons at different parts around the country. But you can't imagine what it is to stand on the field on a good flight day and see balloons literally everywhere. You can't turn without your entire focus being filled with balloons. It literally is almost a sensory overload, and that's why I really encourage people, you need to come the first time just as a spectator. Just let it all kind of sink in, take it all in, because it is very overwhelming. Gosh, I know even the first year that I was here as an announcer, I was, and especially those first few years, because I was working solo. Tommy would be down doing television. I'd be up on the roof or the scaffold at the time, doing this on my own.
Whatever platform we found to put the announcer on.
The only aide I had was Glenda Watson, our spotter, who would be up here to help me sponsor balloons. But other than that, it was a solo job, and it really was just overwhelming. It's so much easier to work with a partner, as I did with Tom for 25 years, and now with you for 6, 7 years, I guess we're going on now. It's so much easier because you can bounce things off of each other. Each of us sees things and reacts to things the other one doesn't, So it makes it much easier to work as a tag team, as it were. But the whole event is, as we heard Sam Parks say, it is the largest event of its type in the world. And it's an awful lot to take in on your first visit here.
I think there's one little indicator that most people don't know about is just how big this is compared to other balloon rallies. One of the questions that we ask pilots that apply to come to Balloon Fiesta and fly here is, have you ever flown with more than 50 balloons in the air at the same time where you are? 50.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We put 550, or this year 650.
Yeah.
So, and we're asking, have you flown with more than 50 balloons at the same time?
Right.
Because, you know, most balloon rallies are in that order of somewhere to probably 20
to 50. Yeah, that's the average, by and large.
Some are bigger than that, but so that is that's the difference. So, yeah, I've flown with 50, or I've flown with 45. Yeah, it's a lot more otherwise.
Well, and the other thing is, have you ever flown at altitude? Because we're at 5,000 feet here, and I learned that lesson my first year here as a pilot. I was flying my 77 Thunder Colt Yellow Rose, and I quickly learned that the balloon does not perform the same at altitude because of density, altitude, et cetera, as it does at sea level where I lived and where I learned to fly. And there were a couple of times in my first year or two flying here when I had some close calls and just went, oh, I see. And there was quite a learning curve. And so that's another thing to take into consideration if you're a pilot wanting to come to Fiesta. Learn to fly and get some experience flying in different locales. If you just fly, at home all the time, and home is at sea level, you're going to be shocked to bring your balloon to Albuquerque and fly at 5,000 feet here in the high desert. It's a whole nother ball game.
And we've been seeing some balloon envelope activity down on the field. I noticed one balloon actually stretched it out so that they can take the sponsor banner off the side of it, and others have stretched it out and have hooked it up, all in anticipation of that we're going to get a green flag. And our assistant balloon meister, Peg Bilson, has just told the pilots that we are putting the green flag up. And while they haven't actually changed it yet, they're about to. And so pilots will be able to fly here in the next couple of minutes, or at least get ready to fly here in the next couple of minutes. But we should be changing the flag from yellow to green, as she tells them. That's what I think I just heard her say, that we're going to be going green here shortly.
Outstanding. And if I may say so, it's about time. Not meaning this morning.
No, yes.
No different, no dissing this morning. Just for this Balloon Fiesta. By gosh, it's about time we see a green flag. We've seen far too much of that yellow flag all week long. So that is great news. That is great news.
So we continue to see the balloon of the day, KKOB. Oh, look at that cutie. There you go. Don't stick your tongue out at us. Get to work. Get that balloon standing up.
There you go. Here's an interesting tip that, Ina Vanderkratz says, if you go to Fiesta as a photographer, here's one for some of your official photographers and anyone else, bring enough memory cards, battery packs, and don't be selective taking photos the first time, because you never know what might make a great picture. Just shoot everything. I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would. One of the early days when I was here, obviously we weren't shooting digital, it was film.
Film, yeah.
And it was really amazing how many rolls of film you would go through, and how really, frankly, expensive it was to then develop all those film and to have all those pictures. So the great deal with digital now, just bring a whole lot of cards, take a whole lot of pictures. It's easy to delete
the ones that don't work. You can always delete the ones that don't work out, yeah. A quick story I'll tell as we're waiting to see the green flag go up is that some years ago I paid for my way on a trip to Europe to the 1983 World Championships over in Nantes, France. A group of us, a couple of balloonists who were also in the travel business, put together a travel group out of Plano, Texas, and there were several balloonists and a few that weren't, and we organized a trip to go to Nantes for the World Championships, and then we also did some touring around Paris and Normandy and other parts of France. So I put together, I was a budding amateur photographer, and I put together a package where I promised, made a contract with all the other members of our little tour group, there were like 18 or 20, that I would produce a souvenir photo album for them. Because again, this was in the days well before, there goes the green flag, well before digital. And so I shot a ton of photos, some of them generic, like, say, for example, a generic shot of the Eiffel Tower, but then I made a point of shooting candid photos of each person that was in our tour group, got home, developed all that film, and then put them into albums, and I charged a fee for the album, and that's kind of how I paid my way over on the trip. But the funny part was going through the airport, I had gone to a thrift store and bought, a second or third hand old beat up suitcase, and I had it loaded with nothing but Kodak film. There must have been 100 rolls of 36 exposure film in there. And going through the airport in those days, I'm not sure if it ever damaged it or not, but there was this, oh no, don't x-ray my film, because that'll hurt the film. So I would have them hand inspect, open the suitcase, and then they'd be confronted with this suitcase full of all these rolls of film, and you could see eyes roll, amongst the, prior to all the security we have at airports these days, but still, you could see the people at the gates and at security, their eyes would kind of roll back in the back of their head when they saw this suitcase full of film. So that's my film story, but that was fun. Still have those, my albums anyway, that we produced from that. That was a great group. And that was the year, as it turned out, after we had already made the plans and put the group together and booked all the tickets and everything, that was the year that the United States ended up boycotting going to the World Balloon Championships. So there were no Americans there, but still we had an absolute great trip. One of my super great memories, one of my first trips overseas to France for the 1983 Worlds.
As you were telling us that story, we watched the green flag go up. There it is.
Yeah.
And the scissor lift, one of our cameras, right next to the Main Street stage. There he is waving at us. And we've also been watching Tristan McLean set up.
Is that the old Balloon Meister's Tower? Remember we heard George Hahn saying the other day that, when he was Balloon Meister, they just had a scissor lift, and the pilots would all chant, higher, higher, high, as he rose up. Yeah.
That's probably not the same one, but that's exactly what he had, is something like that. So we've been watching, and we see again here Tristan McLean and his Hot Minute crew getting everything rigged. They've connected the envelope to the burner, to the basket and the burner frame. We saw him put the mount the camera, all important camera for Tristan, and they just put the tie-off line on, double checking to make sure the cables are connected correctly. The next step will be to start that inflator fan we see right behind them and start to blow cold air, because it is definitely colder today than it's been, cold air into the balloon, and then that will start the cold inflation process. Looking out farther in the field, a number of our Rainbow Rider balloons and other balloons are starting to inflate as well. So again, the green flag is up and the field is open for launches. They'll still need their launch director, like they always do, due to the fact that we have so many balloons here, and it becomes literally the busiest airport in the world for about an hour and a half.
That's right. You cannot launch without approval of a launch director. Another comment in the Facebook group says, when I attended my first Balloon Fiesta, I brought 30 rolls of film and still ran out, but was able to buy more here on the field. Remember, there was a time when Walgreens would have a booth here on the field, and they would sell film because it was a highly sought-after commodity before the days of digital cameras. And you could actually turn your film into their booth here at the field, and they would take it away, process it, and then you could come back and pick up your prints that afternoon.
I remember all the folks walking around with the boxes of all the different film sizes.
Yeah.
So that you could literally not have to even go to Walgreens.
There were like street vendors just wandering around.
And even out among the field.
Yeah, like a cigarette girl, that you see in the old movie. Exactly, cigarettes, candy, whatever.
Yeah.
But they were just selling all the different, they had, Kodachrome and Ektachrome and print film and all that stuff.
The 120 and
the 120, the 35 millimeter.
35 millimeter,
Yeah. Yep. Those, again, a little bit of our retro history here at Balloon Fiesta, and a sign of how things have changed. Now everybody just has a phone in their pocket and pulls it out and takes a ton of pictures. Or has a camera in their pocket that also makes phone calls.
Which is what most of that is,
Depends on, what your primary objective is, I suppose.
There you go.
Yeah, I carry a camera in my pocket that takes phone calls.
Yeah.
Or some like you, take phone calls on their watch.
That's it.
I haven't gone that far yet.
It's actually nice because especially with a text message or something on you get the little haptic tick on your wrist, and so you can just take a look at it and get an idea of who's trying to get in touch with you or what that is. And I still tend to pick up my phone to go read the full message unless it's a 2 or 3 word one. But
as long as we're telling war stories about photography, Larry Stevens says, Glen Moyer, tell the story of selling a photo of Hearts of Fire for $50. I need it for my bingo. Well, Larry is absolutely correct. One of my first fiestas here, I took a great picture of the balloon Hearts of Fire, which our friends Malcolm White and Pauline Baker from Ireland are flying here this week. And I ended up making contact with a postcard company in Plano, Texas, and I sold that photograph to them that they then put on a postcard for $50. It was one of my first sales as a quote-unquote professional photographer, if you will. And
you've been a professional lots of things.
I have been, which tells you I do a lot of things fairly good, but not very well. Yeah, so I that was one. Actually, I sold them 3 or 4 photographs, as a matter of fact, but all for $50, and that's all I ever made. And they've sold that. They're probably selling that postcard to this very day, and that was in 1984, I think, when I took that photograph, when I was here for the first time as a spectator. So there you go, Larry. Check that off on your bingo card. I hope you won.
That's kind of like the Zia balloon of the McConnell clan. Obviously has been around since the very early days, multiple variations of that as the fabric wears out and they replace it. But such an iconic balloon with the pictures, it just shows up on all kinds of things. It's on city buses here. People just put it wherever.
Well, and it's amazing to me when you look at postcards of Balloon Fiesta and calendars and things like that, even in books, to me, you always sort of seem to see the same bunch of balloons. I flew my balloon here for a number of years, and it was like I never got into a calendar or a postcard or whatever. I finally did. There was one picture that was taken, and it ended up in a few different print modes. In fact, I have an old checkbook cover at home, and it was on a checkbook cover.
We have placemats, table placemats with our balloon on it.
Okay, but I almost, Yellow Rose almost never, although I do have. Now, do we do that anymore? Because I was in a glow one of my first years here, and I was assigned on row A, and I flew my balloon Yellow Rose, and in the Yellow Rose, the parachute top, we've talked a little bit about them. In fact, there's a great shot of a smiley face on the parachute top. Well, my parachute top in the Yellow Rose was a Texas flag, and in the old days, I don't know if we still do it, but they used to have a photo plane would fly over the balloon glows, and they would take a photograph of an all burn, and then a few days later you could buy an 8x10 print of that picture. Well, I've got that photo at home, and it was easy to spot my balloon because I could look down and see that Texas flag right in the parachute top of the balloon.
So the answer to the question is we still put a photo plane up. We still capture those pictures. We just don't make them available for sale anymore.
You don't do the print and sell the print anymore?
Do the print. No,
okay.
We don't do that.
Yeah. Well, again, that's a little bit of our history because they used to do that. You could go a day or two later over to one of the booths and buy the print of the balloon glow, and I've got that one at home. And having a Texas flag in the top of my balloon made it easy to spot.
There's one of those cameras that does phone calls on a stick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the ventriloquist? What's the deal? On a steak?
On a steak.
Jeff Dunham. And what's the character? He has the. Is it the jalapeno that's on Jose? The jalapeno on a steak? Yeah. Talking to our truck there. Thanks to the truck. They always help fill us in when we draw a blank. Speaking of on a steak or peppers, there is the red-green balloon, the new Visit Albuquerque balloon, which asks the official state question, red or green, and does it in a brilliant way with half the balloon being a green theme and half the balloon being a red theme. And it was interesting, they did it vertically as opposed to, the top half of the balloon being red, the bottom half being green. They did an entire side of the balloon
Please be aware
in the
that
different
when you
colors.
launch, there is a zippy layer above us at about 250.
And so the red or green balloon is coming up. They're putting some heat into the balloon. You can see it both here on the field and also on our feed. Oh, look at this. There's a great shot
picture.
of
Have you noticed that the number of cowboy hats on Tristan's crew has grown every day?
exponentially every day.
Every day.
Yeah, every day. I'm just a little disappointed they haven't brought us a cowboy hat.
We'll have to talk to Tristan about that. There's the red side. We were looking at the green before. There's the red side. And, of course, the official state question, red or green, featured in our brand new drone show that we have seen.
That's right. That's
a number
right.
of times here at Balloon Fiesta. It was on both Saturday and Sunday mornings and at
Started
all of
us
our
off
evening
this morning.
events. It did. Got a fabulous reception every morning and evening that it flew. So we are, this being our last event, we have seen the drone show for the last time this year.
Oh.
Well, I can fix that because we recorded it for you early in the week, and it is now listed as one of the shows on our Balloon Fiesta live page. Oh, there you go. There's our
crack Windfire production team doing a split screen.
That is not two balloons.
That is one balloon, red on one side, green on the other.
Yeah. What a great job on putting that together, and then of course being able to show you both sides at exactly the same time. Just another.
Well, we have a crack production team here with Windfire Productions, and a great team to work with.
Yeah, there you see, we take it out. It's part of the fleet operated by the Rainbow Riders Group. Not only do they provide balloon rides to those of you who would have a balloon ride on your bucket list, but also provide corporate balloon flights. So the Visit Albuquerque, the tourism department, the visit of City of Albuquerque, you saw Pinnacle Propane there, who provides propane for all of our pilots and propane for whatever use you may need propane for here in Albuquerque and around the country. I also saw in there the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center.
Easy for you to say.
Got to get the words in the right order. So that's another one that they've been flying around town. People get an opportunity to get their balloon ride as well as having the balloon in the sky as well.
I think Dos Equis is also one of their corporate
another one
clients.
Of those. Yes, it is. And the boss, Scott Appleman, flies the Dos Equis branded balloon. So again, we do have a green flag. So far, our ride balloons are getting inflated. I saw them put some air in the Xfinity balloon. What is this?
What is this, cowboy aerobics or line dancing out there they're doing? What's going on there? Tristan's team loosening up, I guess.
Yeah, loosening up for the flight here.
Doing some pre-flight calisthenics. The launch director has joined in, or the ZIT has joined in anyway.
Yeah, that's the referee suit with the red hat.
Right, that is a zebra in training, which we lovingly refer to as ZITs. We're not being disrespectful to anyone. Oh yeah, the launch director is there beside her.
Yeah, I thought there was a. She got a cowboy
hat
as well.
Not only a cowboy hat, she's got the Western-themed referee jacket. See the fringe on the jacket? Yeah, and those pink gloves. Yeah, looking stylish down there, team.
Getting these pictures from our balloon cam, which isn't in the balloon yet.
But will be if they go flying this morning.
And, you know, this is one of those days as a pilot. Okay, it's been 9 days I've been out here. I've been on the road a few days to get here. I've got a few days drive back. I need to have a nice, safe flight if I'm going to do that. It's calming down on the ground. The reports are there's a fast layer pretty quick right above us.
The term I heard was zippy,
yeah,
which is not a term I've heard before. A zippy
layer right there. That's true. That was the term that Peg used, our assistant balloon meister. But that all the reporting stations that we have up around town are all now reporting calm winds.
Well, we've talked about, maybe this is where you're going, I don't mean to interrupt. We've talked all week about even when we put up a green flag, it is always the pilot's discretion. They have the final decision whether or not to fly. And I think maybe where you were going, or if you're not, I'll go there.
I was going there.
A lot of these pilots, as you say, they've been on the road. They traveled perhaps 2 or 3 days to get here. We've had 9 rather difficult, challenging days, let's be honest, about Balloon Fiesta this week. Now they're on the weather challenge. That's what I mean. But it's been physically challenging with sleep patterns interrupted and flying and weather, et cetera. And now they're facing maybe a 2-day. I've got a 2-day drive to get home starting tomorrow. So some of them are probably saying, I really would like to fly today, but maybe I'm too tired. Maybe, whatever. There may be some pilots out there that, are really just taking a long, hard decision about, do I really want to get in the air today? Am I going to be completely safe? If I do so, maybe it's better that I stay on the ground because I do have travel to do and they have to get back and pack and all those kinds of things.
Well, and where I was headed with that is this is the day I would not want to be the first one in the air. So I'm going to kind of sit back and watch a little bit. We'll watch some of the other pilots, those that may do this more often, fly daily for a living. We'll see. We'll let somebody else be the first one in the air. We usually affectionately call them the wind dummy.
Yeah, the wind dummy.
And so watch for them to be able to get in the air and then literally see what is happening up there. How zippy is zippy layer?
Is that layer? And there may be some concern, well, if that layer's up there at, I think Peg was saying like 250 feet, something like that. If it is up there, is it going to come down? If I get
am
in the
I
air,
going to have to land in it?
If I get in the air now, am I going to maybe have to land in a zippy layer? And that's challenging and not always a great deal of fun.
The winds around the field are around 5 to 7 knots, around 200 to 300 feet. We are seeing about 15-knot winds, so just be aware there's a zippy layer around 300 feet.
Yeah, that's we're listening again to one of our assistant balloon meisters, Peg, who's telling the pilots that the surface winds around the field are at about 5 to 7 knots, but that zippy layer is still at about 200 to 300 feet where the winds are 15 knots. So there's double the speed, at least, in some cases maybe triple the speed at just about 200 to 300 feet. There goes one of our first Rainbow Riders balloon. As they ascend, we'll begin to get a look at that zippy layer perhaps. And that may be what a lot of pilots are waiting on, is to see visually what does that layer of speed look like before they make a commitment to whether they're going to fly or not today. And as I said, I think some of them probably too are probably assessing their own physical condition to fly as far as rest and
just
maybe
part of the
even
process
crew.
that you go through as a pilot before you actually commit to aviation on a particular day.
Yeah, because once you get up there, you got to come down, and it's not like you can pull over at a gas station and ask directions or pull into a rest stop and relax for a few minutes. Once you're in the air, you got to be a pilot the whole time you're there. It takes concentration. You've got to be on the top of your game, and maybe some folks maybe just. I know I would be hesitant if I were here as a pilot. I'd be hesitant to fly today because I'm just worn out. I'm exhausted.
Like we say, takeoffs are optional, but landings are mandatory.
Not. Yeah, that's right.
So another balloon has gotten airborne over on the east side of the field, and I guess I should wake up my spotter app so that I can start seeing.
Well, I was going to say I identified that balloon earlier during competition, and I don't remember now who it was. You're talking about the yellow balloon with the multicolored spires on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in the competition one day, and I remember finding it in the database and identifying it for you, I think, down on the field, but I've forgotten now who that was.
Gee, there's only 650 here. How come you can't remember them all?
One slipped my mind.
Well, okay, as long as that's the only one.
Yeah, just one, but yeah, one slipped my mind. What can I tell you?
Yeah, let's see who can find it before they get over the top of us.
Well, I'm not looking at that one. I'm looking for this one, which is the Farmer's balloon. The balloon
I could have told you that one.
Well, see, it says the balloon is called Cruise Control. Rod Baca, of course, flying for Farmers. His 31st year here at Balloon Fiesta and out of Los Lunas, New Mexico, just down the road a bit. So there goes the Farmers Insurance and their beautiful red, white, and blue balloon. Speaking of red, white, and blue, the Team GB, the Great Britain balloon, is also in the sky with the Union Jack. That is the name of their national flag.
I'm still looking for that one.
I know.
Yeah, it's going to be long.
Well, I know it takes a while. That's why I was saying
I didn't
about
put enough color sources in there, so for that particular balloon to find it. There it is. Diamond. Steve Williams was the yellow one with the darts in it.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's who. And that's Eric Greenwood on our screen with the Enchantment balloon. Mostly yellow with the silhouette or the shapes of the New Mexico. I should have known Steve's as well.
There goes red or green from Visit Albuquerque, their new balloon. Meanwhile, the 96.3 News Radio KKOB balloon is still standing up at the stage. They were our balloon of the day, but chose to remain static. Smoky Bear looks like it's getting inflated over near the main stage as well. And isn't Beth Wright? Is Beth Wright Smith flying Smoky this year? Okay.
She is. And, you know, we've talked a lot about the red-green balloon, but I don't think we've ever mentioned that Anthony Lloyd is actually flying it.
Well, maybe not. Anthony came up to the party on the roof last night.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he came through the anteroom here as we were all sitting in there and said hello as he came up onto the, what was that, the Cheers for 50 Years party last night?
Yes.
Is that what they called that?
We invited a number of city and state and county leaders to let them enjoy Balloon Fiesta.
Just in time to have them shelter in place.
They got the full experience.
They did. Yeah, they got to see what it was all about. There is the Rio Grande or Rio Grande, depending on whether you say potato or potato. The Rio Grande Down Syndrome balloon. Beautiful sky blue with white accents. Their banner on the side.
Tony Polito flies that one.
Rainbow Riders balloons, more of them getting airborne now. And I haven't seen, well, I mean, there goes red, green right over the top of this. There may be, I don't see a real zippy layer yet. Maybe they're all just underneath it.
That's the layer, that's where it should be.
Yeah, they look about that high, 200 to 300 feet. But as I say, maybe they're just slightly underneath it.
And there you get a shot as how big some of the Rainbow Rider balloons and therefore baskets
and their baskets are. They carry a bunch of people. One of them in the air now with the Arizona flag and a diamond center of the balloon, to a certain extent representative of the fact that Scotty not only does balloon rides here in Albuquerque, but Rainbow Riders also operate as other ride operators do up in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area in Arizona.
And he has an operation in Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs as well, yeah, he's branched out. Becoming quite the balloon ride mogul is our friend Scotty.
And Rainbow Riders, the sponsor of our navigators, the volunteers here at Balloon Fiesta as well.
There goes the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center balloon you were speaking of not long ago. Again, they are
twisting the words around. I were.
You were, yes. They were. They are a part of the Rainbow Rider fleet, but rather than in the typical yellow with rainbow accent patterns on the side, they have the art of the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center, but still part of the Rainbow Riders fleet. Look at the difference in the color of the new balloons and the older ones. See that one Rainbow Riders balloon going up that's just, the yellow is just beaming in the sunlight. And some of the others show that they've been around for a while.
Well, I would tell you that the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center balloon was originally white.
Was it really?
It has now taken on.
It looks beige to me.
It has now taken on the Adobe color.
Well, okay, that's
of the sand
Adobe.
here
You're
in
right.
New Mexico.
You're right.
Yes,
yeah.
it was when it first.
It was white.
It was.
I didn't know that.
It's a white balloon. It's just not white anymore.
It's just
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that takes us back to that story I told earlier this year when you used to be able to buy used balloons, and some ads would say never flown in Albuquerque because the white fabric didn't turn.
It is really a treat for us to fly off of this field because it is all grassed. I've been seeing a number of posts this week, and actually on as well, hey, I took off on grass and I landed
on grass.
And,
yeah.
That's kind of an amazing feat here in Albuquerque.
Yeah, we used to post whenever, in the old days again, wherever you could find a grass park or something, the green space to land in here in Albuquerque, it was quite a thing to land on grass.
Yep.
Speaking of the
even
new
even if the first year we were here, only the very south end of the field was
right.
grass.
It was done in
yeah.
sections. I mean, I can remember the first couple of years I came when we flew off one of the old fields, when you literally, when you arrived at your launch site, you went around and you picked up the bigger rocks and moved them off to the side. You kind of, we saw how the team that Ruth was with, where they had those lights kind of marking their square. Well, we used to go around and pick up the bigger rocks and move them. So when you laid your balloon out on that caliche, the gravel or whatever you want to call it.
Well, it was a gravel pit.
Yeah, it was. And so the bigger rocks in the gravel pit were not something you laid your balloon down on. Now it's such a privilege to fly off of this beautiful park with all the green grass. Again, just some of the great changes we've seen in the 50-year history of Balloon Fiesta. I think I was doing an interview with Ray Todd just the other morning, and she asked, what's the biggest thing you've seen change in the 50 years? And I said, well, the most significant is that we now have a green grass launch field. A lot of changes. But the green grass launch field, I think, kind of tops everything. It's a pilot favorite.
The other interesting thing is to take an aerial picture of the field the day or two before Balloon Fiesta, and you see how green and nice the park looks, and then take one a day or two after Fiesta, and
it looks a little tired.
It is definitely, you see the wear and tear on the park.
Yes, you do.
With 9 days.
So I was going to mention a moment ago, we talked earlier about Dos Equis being part of the corporate fleet of Rainbow Riders, and their new balloon is standing up, and that would be Scott Appleman flying there as the pilot. Just beside him is the Phillips 66 balloon.
And I believe Brad Rice is flying the Phillips 66 balloon.
Okay.
But I'm seeing a few more pilots now deciding to go ahead and stand their balloon up. They've seen 4 or 5, 6 balloons get in the air. They've seen how fast the zippy layer is up there. And so more of them are now saying, okay, that's not too zippy for me.
Well, and I don't see, another consideration this morning might be, is I don't see any sign of a box yet. Now, Brad Tiemeyer did say earlier this morning it might be a very tall box, but at the moment, no one's coming back over us. And so as we're headed north to south, that takes us into a more populated area where there are fewer landing zones than one might like. And we're not headed out to the northwest, one of our favorite areas, to get out to the West Mesa where there's plenty of landing sites. So that might be a consideration for some pilots.
I would think so.
This morning as well.
Yep. Actually, what did I say? 4 or 5, 6? Look at there. There's like a dozen in the air already.
Yeah. Dos Equis just getting airborne, and the balloon rocking just a bit as they released it.
There he goes.
But he's climbing out over near the main stage.
So the balloons, as they cold inflate and hot inflate, are required to be tied off to a vehicle with a tie-off line, obviously.
Right.
So that they don't go airborne inadvertently or before everyone is ready for them to go. And on a day when it might be just a little breezy, you will get buoyant, hot enough to fly, and you will fly out to the end of that tie-off line so that you're in the air, but you're being held back, and then you release that tie-off line. And sometimes if you don't do that perfectly smoothly, what will happen is you'll get a little bit of rock like that as you take off. And as you see, it settles down within seconds, really.
Yeah, you'll get a little bit of a pendulum motion there for a moment.
I like to, as someone else is taking off, actually create that effect on them by giving the basket a little shove or hang on to it and start them rocking. Just have a little bit of fun as well.
You old meanie.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, I don't do it often. I do it to the people who I know don't like it.
Yeah. Hey, first time I've seen this banner this weekend, which is odd because they're taking off from row A right in front of us. Champions Wash here. This is for the Champion Express Car Wash. I can always remember, again, referencing back to some of my earlier years here when part of my contract was that Fiesta provided me with a courtesy vehicle, and those usually came from Don Chalmers Ford. And then before you could return the car, though, you had to wash it. So I had to hunt down on a Sunday afternoon after our morning flight. I had to go hunting for preferably one of those drive-through automatic car washes. So because they then turned around and sold those cars at a good discount, because they really couldn't be sold as brand new because they had been used. Mine usually very lightly used, just driven around the city of Albuquerque for 8 or 9 days. And I ended up, because of that, one year when I was out here, I drove home a brand new Ford Expedition that I purchased at Don Chalmers Ford.
So that Champion car wash balloon is actually named X-Max, piloted by Richard Davenport from Florida.
There goes Phillips 66. Excuse me while I have a bit of a nap attack here this morning.
And we mentioned earlier the Arizona Rainbow Riders balloon. Here's the New Mexico branded
one.
one.
Yeah, with the Zia in the diamond on the side. That's very nice.
And actually there is a Roadrunner and Coyote in the pattern right above the skirt of that balloon. We can see the Coyote from our side as he goes right over the west side of our rooftop studio.
Also inflated in the south end of the park here is the beautiful Forget-Me-Not balloon of Garrett Hillary. This is their first year at AIBF at the Balloon Fiesta from Scales Mound, Illinois. And if memory serves, I think they've done a whole series of knot balloons. That's a Celtic knot that you see on the side of the balloon, and the green, blue, and purple, the interlocked Celtic knot, referencing, of course, the colors that are in the balloon: greens, blues, purples, and a bright yellow equator.
So we have told our pilots that if you're going to fly, we'd like to get you up and in the air. And there are pilots who are asking about doing a static display. We want to get those that are going to fly up and out, and then we'll allow the field to be inflated for static displays. I do see down on the south end of our field here, the Fiesta Gold balloon being inflated.
Yeah, right beside Tomas Hara, who's inflating G-Daddy, or the Texas Twist, with which he won a pole and $2,000 in our competition earlier this week.
So based on the proximity of those two, my guess is that it would be Mark Sullivan who would be standing up the Fiesta Gold balloon.
Gold, and then Tomas Hora flying G-Daddy.
Yep.
That would be my assumption too. I don't know about a static display, though. To me, it's still a bit breezy on the surface.
I understand. I've continued to hear that there are pilots
sure.
asking about doing that.
I understand. I'm just saying, as a pilot myself, it would appear to me it's still a bit breezy on the field to do a static display, though, the Forget-Me-Not's been standing there for a few minutes now without any great difficulty. So,
well, remember, it's calming down here on the ground. It's that zippy layer above. And then reporting stations around the area reporting calm winds. So
we are slightly above field level as well.
We are. And there goes your knot balloon.
Yep, there goes Garrett Hillary. First time at Balloon Fiesta. Fiesta? I think my voice is beginning to go.
There's the brand new U.S. Air Force balloon.
Yes, indeed. They are celebrating a lot of anniversaries. We've talked about this earlier this year. A lot of anniversaries here at the park this year. The 50th for Balloon Fiesta, the 25th for the America's Challenge. Put them together, and you have the 75th anniversary of the United States Air Force. And you will find the U.S. Air Force with their own booth or tent or marquee, depending on your term, along Main Street, where they have some of their recruiters here, and they are, of course, promoting the variety of career choices that one can make in the U.S. Air Force. It's not all about being a pilot. You can be a member of the Air Force, serve in the Air Force without ever having to be a pilot.
That balloon made by Kubitschek and made just in time for it to debut here at the Balloon Fiesta.
I did not know that. I knew it was built by Kubitschek. I knew it was fairly new. I didn't realize it was debuting here. That's quite nice.
That is. there was a kind of a scramble. The Air Force decided that they wanted to have a balloon here at Balloon Fiesta, and frankly went to a number of different manufacturers. Can you build it in time for Balloon Fiesta? And the Kubitschek family and factory stepped up and said, we can do it. And they did, and it looks great.
It does. And in the past, we have had, the U.S. Navy used to have quite an active balloon team.
Yeah.
And of course, Kevin Knapp, my good friend, flew the U.S. Army balloon for a number of years. So the other services. And then, the Socorro Thomas fleet included Chesty the Bulldog,
yes,
which was an homage to the mascot of the U.S. Marine Corps. So we've had all of the. Have we had a Coast Guard balloon here?
I was just thinking, I
can't recall
remember
that.
one.
So maybe I was about to say we've had all of the services represented at some point in time, but maybe not. Maybe the Coast Guard has not had a balloon here.
We finally going to hear from the weather guy.
We never could get him. He never would come to the tower to speak to us, so we've tracked him down.
He
Ruth
hung out backstage all week.
That's right. Yeah, Ruth has tracked down our weather guru for the event, Mr. Brad T. Meyer. So let's see what Brad has to say for himself after this week. Ruth, take it away.
Well, Brad never says no to me. I don't know why he would say no to you going up on the stage. Maybe he was just waiting for me to come over here. Brad, my cameraman, Tom, joked a couple minutes ago, we don't know if we're going to be able to see your face on the camera in the sun because we've only seen you in the rain all week.
Yeah, it's been a brutal week this year.
Have you ever seen anything like this? I mean, for a whole week?
Not at least here in Balloon Fiesta. Sometimes we'll get into a tough pattern, but where it just doesn't evolve, and that's kind of what we had here this week, where it was just a stubborn low that just wouldn't go away.
Tell us why. Why did it stick around so long?
Well, we had the hurricane that went up the East Coast there, and it kind of blocked everything from progressing west to east. And then when that broke down, we still had an upper low basically across the lower southwest portion of the U.S., and so that just brought more inclement weather and certainly not balloon-friendly flying weather by any means.
So it was a typical lemony snicket unfortunate event.
Yes, but when you have lemons, you got to make lemonade. So we found those windows of opportunity, right?
We did. We actually got a lot done this week, a lot more than many of us thought we would be able to. How was your work with the Fiesta officials going forward? Was there a lot more for you to be involved with this year?
Yeah, that's the trick, is that when the weather is not ideal, we have to do a lot of extra work in terms of trying to figure out what we can do with the conditions that we have. So we really tried to make the most of every opportunity that we had and take advantage of anything that we've got to put on a show for our guests.
We really did, and the event officials were so good at that. I think every single session we at least got something done, and you're a big part of that. Thank you so much for your work, Brad. And I'm going to hang out here with my friend, my close personal friend, Brad, because he's here with me and not on the stage. Back to you guys.
Yeah.
All right, Ruth, we get the message.
That's
we
it.
get the message.
That's why we keep her around. She can get places to people and bring us
can't.
stories we
That's
just
right.
can't do.
Yep.
That's it. Great job, Ruth. Thanks to Brad as well for joining us. We've been joking with him. He keeps saying, I'm going to get there if the weather would ever let up.
If the weather, yeah. He has probably been, Ruth was talking about all the work that Sam and Henry did throughout the week. I don't know if anyone worked harder than Brad this week. He's been constantly on edge, monitoring all of the weather and trying to advise our officials as to what would be safe to do and what not.
It's this far away. Now it's this close. You can expect this in the next 10 minutes. All those kinds of predictions coming along. And us making safety decisions throughout the week based on what he was observing and his knowledge of the weather and the weather systems.
And your weather guy at a balloon meet is kind of like the quarterback of a football team. He gets all the glory, but he also gets all the blame.
That's right.
So it's been a tough week for Brad, but he's held up well, and the man really knows his stuff. I will say that.
He does do that.
He's one of the top-notch weather folks as far as ballooning weather is concerned, certainly in the United States and indeed around the world.
And he's been obviously traveling to all these different balloon events, and of course.
Well, he was over in Slovenia for the World Championships. I was at the UK at Longleat at Sky Safari. You were in Plano, Texas. Brad was over in Slovenia.
Seemed like an especially busy ballooning system time frame in the last 2 months.
I think August, September were particularly busy. The Gordon Bennett was going on. The World Championships were happening. A lot of other just normally scheduled events were going on. But we were all have all been traveling quite a bit in the last month or so.
We just saw a nice shot of the G Daddy balloon standing up and the top of the Fiesta Gold.
Yeah.
A lot of times, obviously, once the balloon stands up, it's difficult to see what the top looks like. There's the G Daddy. That's why we call it. That is its registration number. But the yellow Fiesta Gold balloon, again, we believe that is Mark Sullivan standing that up. You see the replicas of the original 13 on the side of that balloon, and there in the parachute top, the black silhouette of the Sid Cutter statue that is just outside the Sid Cutter Pilot Pavilion. So Sid checking over things while you're cold inflating, and once you're in the air, watching over you in flight.
Yep. And that statue and the silhouette you see there that it represents were actually modeled after, that was kind of a popular pose that Sid would often take when flying in his balloon. So that's
sitting
kind
on
of
the side, kind of hanging on and waving.
And waving to folks. So that's kind of the backstory behind the statue and the silhouette, is that it's something that's a pose that Sid very often would take up while flying his balloons.
So that is the statue that is over there. We have made miniatures of that statue that go to the overall champion here at Balloon Fiesta. So Alan Anderson did take home one of those mini statues as part of his overall champion award package.
Yeah, and congratulations to Alan again for his championship. There goes Tomas Sora in G Daddy, going out a bit hot this morning. And as you can see, pulling the vent to slow that ascent rate, although he's clear above, so not a real issue.
That Fiesta Gold balloon, you may remember, built here at Balloon Fiesta last year.
That's right.
Over in the Sid Cutter Pilots Pavilion. Another one of those top secret projects. No one knew what was going on until, oh, wait, they're sewing. You think they're sewing a balloon?
Yeah.
And then on the last Saturday, we actually revealed that balloon right here on the field and live on Balloon Fiesta Live. You can go back and watch that.
And that logo that you see with the diamond in the various shades of turquoise with the 50 logo in the center of it, that's what's on that retail jacket you were discussing earlier, that the balloonfiestastuff.com on Wednesday is going to open up. And if you weren't able to get one of those jackets here at Fiesta, maybe they were already sold out of your size, whatever, they're going to open that up for a 10-day pre-order for one final order, which will be here in time for you to give them as Christmas gifts or to wear them for the holidays. So balloonfiestastuff.com on Wednesday is when you'll be able to pre-order your jacket with the Fiesta Gold logo if you'd like to have one of those.
And just like the balloon has the replicas of the 13, which actually goes around the balloons, on the jacket it goes around that turquoise design. So you have all those as well.
All right.
You'll be able to check out the design again when we open the online store back up. And there might be a few of those jackets left in our merchandise tent, so you could at least go over there and take a look at it and then order it online starting on Wednesday. Well, again, balloonfiestastuff.com.
They may still even have your size there, depending on, they're probably size limited in terms of, probably somewhat limited in terms of inventory by this date late in the Fiesta. But you could at least get a look at it and decide, hey, I'd like one of those. Well, then on Wednesday, you can go online to balloonfiestastuff.com and purchase or pre-order one.
Pre-order one.
Which also means purchase.
It does. It does. Hey, there's Arabelle getting cold inflated.
Well, I thought I saw Arabelle getting cold inflated a while ago, but I wasn't sure because it's a little breezy, I would think, for Arabelle to be inflating. She normally prefers kind of calm weather. But
well, maybe a final dry out. Make sure that it's truly dry.
Yeah, that could be as well.
I think I saw on our feed someone suggested that it took about 5 hours to dry out the little dog balloon because you can only just continue to blow cold air through it, and the balloons were so soaked after the other night that it does take a while. And of course the other thing is, with all the showers in the area, it's pretty humid around here, And so that moisture that's in the balloon has to go back into the air. And if the air is already saturated, it takes a lot longer for that to happen.
Yeah, I told the story earlier this week. I won't tell it again. But
take a peek that way while you talk.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to talk or just
both?
Or just look, or just look good. I don't think I can do that part.
You can't do both.
Yeah, I can't. Well, I can't do both, and
At
I'm
the
really
same
not
time.
very good at looking good anyway.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, with regard to drying out those balloons, I told the story earlier this week, and I won't retell it now. But the time when I got caught in a rainstorm flying a factory balloon for Thunder and Colt, we took it into an indoor facility, our factory,
Your factory.
and blew cold air through it for 3 days, and
Wow.
we were not able to completely dry it and save it. We ended up having to replace the parachute in the top 3 panels. I can say, the last I heard, Fiesta officials were quite proud of the fact, because of how the community responded in opening up those huge arenas so we could get those balloons in and cold inflated and dried. There has been no report of any damage to any of the shapes that were soaked in that pop-up storm that caught us on Thursday evening.
Thank you, Albuquerque, Rio Rancho,
UNM.
University of New Mexico,
Yeah.
and all the other agencies and organizations that stepped up to help us out. We
Absolutely.
definitely appreciate that. Saw Dale Ruth get airborne in his Dawn's Delight. He was one of our Dawn Patrol pilots this week.
I used to work with a guy in radio named Dale Ruth, different guy, no relation, but just you're mentioning that name just brought back that memory to me. He used to live on the same street as my mom and dad over in Beaumont back in the, goodness, when was that?
I don't know.
Probably mid 70s, because I was working at the local TV station doing the 6 and 10 o'clock news as a sports reporter, and then I would get off the set at 10 o'clock, and I would drive to Lake Charles, Louisiana, and do a midnight to 6 a.m. shift as a disc jockey on a radio station in Lake Charles. And then I would get off the air at 6 a.m. and drive back home to Beaumont, about, I guess that's maybe an hour's drive, thereabouts. Those were some crazy times when you're young and indestructible and working in radio and television. You do those kinds of crazy things. So the Fiesta Gold balloon now standing up. You can see that beautiful gold logo, the Golden 50, reflecting in the sunlight, and that gorgeous turquoise diamond background. Somebody's got, there you go. Thanks for turning the squelch down. Also behind the Fiesta Gold is the U.S. Bank balloon. That's a balloon I believe Nick Donner was flying in competition. Nick finished in the top 3. He was in 3rd place overall, flying for Scott McClinton, who was called away because of a family issue. So Nick stepped in and flew the balloon for him. Cameron Wall getting airborne in his gorgeous balloon called Grandma's Legacy. The story behind that balloon is his grandmother is quite the painter, and she likes to paint underwater scenes. And so Cameron took a number of her paintings, and then I think the balloon was built by Kubitschek, as I recall. And so they took those paintings and reproduced them, printed them onto basically white balloon fabric, and then sewed the balloon together. And so all those, the fish and the underwater vegetation and whatnot that you see on the balloon, that's all from paintings done by Cameron's grandmother. So that's quite a unique piece of art, bit of art on that balloon.
And it is a Kubitschek.
Okay, I was pretty sure it was. We did a story about the balloon and Cameron and his grandmother in Ballooning Magazine. It's been a few months ago, and I was trying to remember. My memory isn't always what it could be. You know, that's the scary thing is I saw a report on my phone this morning. There's some study done that said 61% of seniors will eventually succumb to Alzheimer's or dementia.
Whoa.
Almost 2/3. That's a scary. I mean,
It is a scary
My
number.
my mom, bless her heart, is dealing with it right now. Tommy Rutherford, our past announcer, was debilitated by that cruel disease, and a new study says that 61% of adults may eventually suffer from some level of dementia or Alzheimer's. That's kind of a scary thought.
Just a moment ago on our live picture, we saw the blue balloon with the yellow Zia on it, Sunflyer. flown by the Bacon family.
There goes the balloon with the teddy bears on the side. I haven't discovered who that is yet.
That was one of
Do you
those
know?
that was one of those that came in at the last minute, showed up with kind of a new balloon, and I have that somewhere. I don't think I added it there though. Let me go.
I'm just curious.
I went back to like we said, people have shown up with
Yeah,
new or different
register
balloons.
exactly. They register with one balloon and then show up here with something else, and we don't know that or don't find out about it in time. And so our database, the spotting app that Art builds, doesn't have the new picture. That's what happened with Alan Anderson. He was flying a new racer balloon that we didn't have a photo of, and so search as we might through the database, we weren't able to find the balloon, and thus we were never really successful at identifying him when he was doing so well in the competition.
Yeah. So I actually have a couple of pieces of information here. I think the name, they call that balloon Teddy Graham.
Okay.
Because Colin Graham owns it.
Oh, okay.
And then supposedly David Adler is flying it. And none of that lines up with the information I had in our spotter app.
Of course.
But I got it from our associate event director and also pilot coordinator, who is the person who has to deal with all those new balloons and pictures and documents that show up on registration days.
I just realized I'm squinting quite a bit because of the sunlight, so I do have my sunglasses with me, but that then limits my ability to see my iPad and my iPhone screen to some extent.
So there's Arabelle, and in the forefront of the picture, the U.S. Bank balloon. We assume that Nick Donner has stood that up as Scott McClinton had to go home for a family issue. And our condolences out to Scott and the McClinton family. Meanwhile, Ruth continues her fabulous job of finding interesting people here on the field. Ruth?
Oh my goodness, and this lady is one of the most interesting of them all. She's Peggy Bilson. She's the assistant balloon meister this year. Now Peggy, this is your first year as assistant balloon meister. What's it been like for you?
It's been quite the year of learning. I've been fortunate enough to start with Balloon Fiesta as a launch director, as a zebra, and then a safety officer, and now as assistant balloon meister.
That's a really great career path in terms of climbing up the ladder. And is the expectation that you will step in for Henry when he's done being balloon meister?
I'm thrilled just to be part of the team any way I can serve.
That's wonderful. Do you live right here in Albuquerque?
Yes, I do. I've been here for 17 years.
Are you also a balloon pilot?
Yes, of course I'm a balloon pilot. And my passion is flying. I've been flying since I was a teenager, airplanes. But what do you do when you retire in Albuquerque and your passion's flying? You become a balloon pilot.
Exactly. Is it tough for you to not be flying at this year's Fiesta?
We always miss it. Of course we miss it. As a pilot, you want to be up in the air, but you know, all of the volunteers, we enjoy helping everybody else be able to enjoy this wonderful event.
Now, what kinds of things do you do as an assistant balloon meister?
One of the things I do is coordinate with the FAA. The second is whatever Henry needs me to do. Generally just, help in all the activities. There's plenty for everybody to do at all times.
Have there been special things that you've had to do this year with all of the weather challenges that we've had?
Well, one of my responsibilities is to do the pilot briefing for the glows, the evening glows. And so, as you know, that's been a particular challenge this year with the weather. And so, fortunately, we have a world-class weather team with us and with world-class information for us to be watching it constantly. And so if there has been a unique set of circumstances this year, that's been it.
Wonderful. Peggy, thank you so much for all the work you do. We hope we'll see you back again next year. And I'm going to send it back to the stage to Art and Glen.
Thanks, Ruth. Peg Bilson is also a board member for the local balloon club, Quad A, the Albuquerque Aerostat Ascension Association, in charge of the education committee. So kind of under her direction and leadership, working with me and a number of other people on the committee, the Education Committee has put together a online private pilot ground school, an online commercial ground school, and we are in the middle of producing an online chase crew training class as well.
Well, Peg has had a very difficult week because, as she said, she coordinates all of the balloon glows.
Yes.
And I know she's been telling a little bit, maybe talking a bit out of turn. She's been fretting a bit because we didn't get any of the balloon glows off. I saw her here backstage last night, and I jokingly said, you know, Peg, we all think it's all your fault. and she looked at me very seriously and says, I'm going to get fired. I'm going to get fired. I'm sure Peg is not going to be fired.
I don't think so.
No, she's quite the accomplished lady and does great work, and just, you know, had the bad luck of the draw that her first year coordinating the balloon glows turned out to be this year when Mother Nature didn't cooperate with us.
That's it.
And she certainly doesn't have any blame associated with that, but yeah, she's, you know, like all of us, we're disappointed, and she's been disappointed that we weren't able to pull those glows off, but her work and effort in other areas of Balloon Fiesta are well noted.
And recognized by the Quad A group yesterday, as she is the latest recipient of the Sid Cutter Award.
That is right, and you don't earn that if you haven't paid your dues and earned your stripes. And so congratulations to Peg, and it's been fun working with her for the first year, though you and I have not enjoyed the relationship we'd normally enjoy with the assistant balloon meister, because generally they're right here at our side.
Right here for all of us.
Calling all of the balloon glows, and because of the weather, Peg has instead been huddled up with all of the other officials, monitoring the weather, talking to Brad T. Moyer and Sam Parks and all those others to make those decisions we had to make every evening on the balloon glow. So we really haven't, I personally have not had the chance to get to know Peg as I typically would a new balloon assistant balloon meister, but I'm sure we'll be working with her again next year and look forward to that.
You betcha. Sean Askren has stood up the Xfinity Rewards balloon, and a few moments ago I saw Phil Glebe take out the Intel balloon.
Intel balloon, yeah.
Take out as in lift off.
As in lift off, not, yeah, as in destroyed or anything like that.
And there's Smokey we talked about. Smokey is inflated, as is Arabelle the cow. The little dog is inflated down that end of the field.
And Olaf the clown is inflated down there as well. I just got a glimpse of it behind one of our
the fractal balloon.
Thank you. I was about to say petroglyph or something. I knew it wasn't the right word. That's why I was and then ahing.
The fractal balloon, another one of those printed on white fabric,
right,
like you were talking about Cameron Wall's balloons. Yeah.
The design is worked out on a computer, and then it's printed out, and then it is literally printed onto white fabric and then sewn together. All the panels matched up and sewn together into a balloon.
You know, Jonathan Wolf came and talked to our local balloon club about the production of that balloon. And, you know, you think about it, these other balloons, you know, they have some yellow panels and they have some red ones and all these different colors. And if a panel were to get damaged, you would just take some more red fabric or yellow fabric, whatever color, and put it in there.
Yeah.
In the case of the fractal balloon, since it is all this pattern, you would have to go back to the factory and have them print a new panel for you and replace the panel, because you can't just put a piece of orange fabric in there.
So if it's Gore 5 panel 4, they have to go back and figure out in the design what that panel was and reprint the exact panel.
And then replace
that. I never thought about that. But
we hadn't either when Jonathan talked about that.
Because, if you've got if you're, let's say the Xfinity Rewards balloon there, if you burn one of those first panels there, a blue one, a purple one, and a yellow one, whatever, you just go have another panel of blue, purple, or yellow fabric put in. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, off-the-shelf balloon fabric.
Yeah, but in the case of the fractal balloon, then yes, that I could see where that could be a little bit challenging.
So that's where having all of that pattern designed on the computer, printed out that way, easy to go back then, fairly easy to go back
I'm sure it's graphed so that they know which panel, what part of the design is on which individual panel of the balloon.
Yep, but it also makes repairs more expensive.
I was going to say, still, it makes for an expensive repair. You're right. There goes the General Mills balloon, the balloon carrying the General Mills banner, at least, over on the far side of the field, which, again, harkens the memory back to the years when we used to fly out of the field south of us here. And General Mills was at the what then would have been the southwest corner of that field, and many times was the morning we'd be on the scaffolding announcing the flight, and it was like being inside a bowl of Cocoa Puffs.
Keith DeKotch flies the balloon to catch another breeze, or to catch a breeze. See, this one is to catch another breeze. He has a racer-shaped balloon as well.
Okay.
He's a local pilot, and he is actually doing very well in the local competitions here, the local Hot Air Balloon Club and the local Hot Air Competition Club. I think he's leading, or at least at the top of both of those, near the top of both of those in our little fun competitions.
All right, so Quad A is the local balloon club. Which is the Aeronaut
Albuquerque Aerostatic
Ascension Association.
You know, that club was actually started by Sid Cutter back before we started the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. So the idea, once Sid got that first balloon in 1971 for that June birthday party, shortly after that, he got some folks to literally buy in, and they bought a club balloon and formed the club.
Okay.
Quad A, the Albuquerque Aerostat Ascension Association, and you bought into the club, and that gave you the rights to be able to fly the balloon, take lessons, and those types of things.
Yeah.
And then over the years, it's expanded to where you can join the club as a social member, as a pilot, or any of those types of things. We no longer own a club balloon. We don't do that anymore. Everybody brings their own balloons to the table. But we sponsor, we have monthly meetings, we have monthly competitions, not only for balloon pilots, but also for crew members as well. We produce a monthly magazine. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, our education committee, which is part of the group, is now producing online ground schools. For years, we have done in-person ones, and COVID forced us to move online. So we reacted fairly quickly, I believe, and managed to get those courses online.
Well, and clubs like that were how a lot of people got started in ballooning, where a number of people would group together and they would buy a single balloon and share ownership. With the legal system we have in this country, with lawsuits, et cetera, that's not very popular anymore. But in the UK, for example, they have what they call syndicates. And it's nothing more than a partnership in a way to buy a balloon. For example, if you wanted to be a balloonist and I wanted to be a balloonist and our PA, Greg, wanted to be a balloonist, the three of us knew each other, we might go together and buy a balloon, and we would each be trained in that balloon, and we would each have partial ownership of the balloon and have share flying rights and that sort of thing. That's very common over in the UK, but they don't have the legal tort system that we have here, which is one way of simply saying they're not as lawsuit happy as we are in this country. And so that style, Guy Gauthier used to make a living forming balloon clubs. He would find 8 or 9 people who wanted to buy a balloon, and he would create a balloon club, and they would all get together and buy a balloon. And eventually, what typically would happen is 2 or 3 or 4 people would learn to fly and become pilots, and then they would each want their own balloon. And so someone would eventually buy out the club balloon, and then the other individuals would go buy their balloons. But it was a unique way of really growing the sport, bringing people into the sport. But you really don't see that happen that much here in the States anymore, and I blame it in large part on the legal system that we have and the fact that, you can file a lawsuit at the drop of a hat for any reason. The weather was bad at Balloon Fiesta, so I'm going to file a lawsuit, and, I bought a $5 ticket and I couldn't get in, so now I'm going to sue them for $50,000. I mean, we're nuts in this country about that. Don't get me ranting about that. Anyway, to get back on track, that form of forming balloon clubs, that means of forming balloon clubs, buying club balloons, owning them. The Houston Aeronauts Association started that way, where Sam Edwards, Bill Murtaugh, some of those folks went together and bought a club balloon. And that's how they got started. At one time, it was very popular here in the United States. You just don't see it very much anymore.
If you'd like to know more about the Quad A, the Albuquerque Aerostat Ascension Association, you can check out the website at hotairballooning.org. hotairballooning.org.
And if you want to know more about the National Balloon Club for all balloonists, you can check out the website of the Balloon Federation of America, www.bfa.net. The Quad A is what we refer to as a regional club, and there are many of them around the country. In fact, on the BFA website, you will find a listing of all of the regional clubs. So if you're traveling, if you're here from another part of the country, think you might want to get involved with ballooning when you get home, you can check with the BFA website and find out if there is a regional club like the Quad A in the part of the country that you live in.
Speaking of Quad A, that's Blair Kaufman, who is the president of Quad A.
Absolutely, yeah.
Taking his new balloon, Heart's Desire Airborne, carrying the banner of
CNM, yes.
Local Community College. And there's the new hearts on the side of that balloon.
Yeah.
Tristan McLean, we saw, is setting up the Hot Minute balloon down here at the south end. We got a chance to see the top of that as that balloon inflates. You know, it's the zippy layer doesn't seem to be there anymore, and it's not down here.
No. And there is a very tall box. Look up there. That black balloon with the, I always say it looks like somebody spilled a bucket of rainbow paint on the top. Way up high. It is a very tall box. You've got to get up there a ways. But they are boxing their way back over the field. And, of course, Brad Tiemeyer, the expert weatherman that we know that he is, predicted that earlier this morning during briefing, that there would be a box, but it might be very tall today. And there it is.
Definitely the higher you go, the slower you go.
Which means it's a shame we haven't seen Tall Steve, because Tall Steve would fit perfectly into a tall box. Sorry, not sorry.
There's the shot looking up, and everybody almost getting into a parking lot up there.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, I think you were telling me earlier this morning, checking the weather readings we had, that there was a layer up there where the speed was like 1 mile an hour.
Or less.
So
yeah, there was a lot of that up there.
Yeah.
It was just these lower 1,000 feet or so and now, it is mixing down. Of course, that happens now that we have some sun and blue sky. The clouds are.
And my goodness, for the first time this week, the clouds are white.
Yeah.
Thank you. White clouds instead of
blue
gray
skies,
clouds.
Yeah.
Blue skies, white clouds.
A great day for more pictures. We got great pictures, but with the gray sky in the background, the colors just don't pop like they do when the sun is on them.
But they are popping well today.
They definitely are.
I guess Mother Nature got the message that we really would like to have gone out with a big bang, and this isn't the biggest bang perhaps, but it's pretty big for this week. This looks really good.
Actually kind of a nice, peaceful, calming, easy launch.
If I had my soundtrack stuff with me, I'd pull up a little bit of Willie Nelson singing Blue Skies.
Oh, there you go. Get us shut down.
Well.
Because the last time Willie Nelson got on our feed, Facebook shut us down.
Well, I know. Well, I didn't mean necessarily for the feed, but just like maybe on the PA here.
Background. There you go.
Just it kind of sets the background.
Hey, going out of the center of the field, I see Ron Sanchez in his red and white balloon with the yellow pennants and the banner of Bubba's 33, Food for All.
Yeah.
Ron was kind enough to carry our balloon camera last weekend for us. And the sponsor, Bubba's 33, actually kind of sponsored a little welcome back pilots party at their restaurant in the few days leading up to Balloon Fiesta. So good to have Ron in the air, and certainly appreciate his sponsor, Bubba's 33.
I didn't get that memo. I guess there wasn't a welcome back announcers party anywhere.
You know what? If we had gone, they would have welcomed us with open arms, I'm sure.
You know I'm being sarcastic.
Yes.
I'm just taking a dig. A little bit of a stick of the knife and twist it just a bit.
There you go. I'm going to get that saw that we got, your saw through your head.
Yeah, I left that backstage yesterday. I don't know if it's still back there or not.
It's still there.
We're still there.
We'll get it out for you.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
That came,
and you know, the direction he's going out of here has changed.
It has.
They were not going that direction when they went out of here
more
before.
Of a westerly, southwesterly component now. Earlier today it was pretty much pure south.
But looking out at the north end of the field, there's Tom Caius in the Jabel-sponsored balloon.
Yeah.
Of the red and blue spirals with the gold and black spirals mixed in there.
That balloon was originally owned by my dear friends, Ken and Marianne Layer. It was called, I think it was Hot Stuff was the name of it at the time. Ken Layer was is the only pilot I ever trained to fly. He was my student, and nothing against Ken, but by teaching Ken to fly, I realized I did not want to be an instructor. I was a commercial pilot and had those privileges, but I was just not really into teaching. But I still remember the day I was at work at Balloon Life, our office out in Sacramento, California, and Ken Laird just walked into the building one day and announced that, I want to become a balloon pilot. What do I do?
I want to be a balloon pilot.
Yeah, and so, yep, he crewed for me with my balloon Yellow Rose at the time, and then.
That's kind of a path into ballooning as well. We talked about getting involved with a club or getting involved with an organization, but the other way is to literally hook up with a balloon pilot, join their balloon crew.
Absolutely.
That's how I got started.
What is this? Is that a drone that's right here in front of us? See that? There you go. See him going up toward the red balloon? And coming, see, right there?
It sure looks like
it's a drone of some sort. Now, whether it's official,
does not belong in this area.
Maybe it doesn't belong in this airspace. I would not imagine that's one of Verge's drones.
No, and it's not one of our. We do have a company that is taking some drone pictures for us, but they are not authorized to fly over the field, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
They have certain areas that they are supposed to stay in.
Well, it was just sitting right here in front of us, and I was trying to think, is that a bug or what is that?
Yeah,
and
well, when I first caught it, I thought, well, that's just a bird flying through, and then just another few feet, and I noticed that it was indeed a drone.
But when I saw it go straight up alongside this red racer here.
It was going horizontal by the time I saw it.
Yeah, well, it went straight vertical. It had just been sitting there, not moving at all, and then it went straight up.
So it's worth mentioning that Balloon Fiesta Park is a no-drone area.
Well, there's a temporary flight restriction, a TFR area within 4 miles, I think it is, of the balloon
from
field.
the center of the park.
If you're not a registered aircraft registered with Balloon Fiesta, you are not legally allowed to be in that 4-mile circular airspace.
And drones are considered aircraft,
therefore
drones. You can't be here unless you have specific authorization.
So I don't know if that was one that maybe one of our pilots owns and they were operating it here on the field, or if somebody off-site flew it in here, but
interesting.
Yeah, it should not have been here, whichever it was.
I'm sure the FAA and the police and other authorities FBI, et cetera, will be investigating that.
Yep, and they do have apps that will track you down
quickly.
As Liam Neeson would say, I will find you, I will kill you.
You remember when drones started becoming popular, we actually did some detection tests here, and found that we could respond
and track them
in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that included the vehicle having to go from wherever it was staged to where you were flying your drone
That's
from.
right, yeah.
So if you're thinking of flying a drone in our airspace, you might want to think again.
Yeah, and you think, oh, they'll never find me.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
This looks like Annie, the ladybug, right in front of us that we're seeing.
It does, yeah.
Which, of course, as we found out the other day, is now not called Annie, but she's a lady.
Was it the Isley Brothers who did a great song called "She's a Lady"?
I don't remember it being Isley Brothers, but there was a great song that way.
It was a great song. I was thinking it was the.
Yeah. Who can get there first?
Who can get to Google quickest? It's one of my favorite
Tom
songs.
Jones did one.
No, but it's not the Tom Jones version I'm thinking of. Maybe it's not. Maybe "She's a Lady" is not the title. All right.
Paul Anka did one called "She's a
No,
Lady."
it's not a Paul Anka tune either.
I'm thinking of the one from Tom Jones.
No, I'm not. Let's see here. Maybe "She's a Lady" is just a lyric in the song.
In that song, that could be.
I'm doing a little checking here.
Hey, I see John Pata going down the west side of the field in his zigzag browns and golds pattern. And some of our Dawn Patrol balloons are also up there. Greg Lindsay in Floating Oasis, and I saw earlier Matt Grote in Jester Unwinds. And here you have a nice close shot as we inflate yet another balloon on the field. I'm not sure who that is. I don't recognize that pilot on our camera.
All pilots. If you plan on flying, we would prefer that you be off the field by 9 because there are people that desire to static. And so we're holding them until all the flyers are off. So if you plan on flying, please get up and be off the field by 9.
So a quick update from our assistant balloon meister, Peg Bilson, who you met a few minutes ago with Ruth. They are asking pilots, if you are planning to fly, please be in the air by 9 o'clock. We have a number of balloons who would like to put on a static display for you this morning, and we're kind of holding them on the ground until we get all of our flyers in the air. So pilots, if you're planning to fly, our balloon officials, our assistant balloon meister, Peg Bilson, is asking that if you're going to fly, please be in the air by 9 so that we can stand up the rest of those balloons that are interested in doing a static display. Here on the final day of the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, powered by ExxonMobil.
And I'm being told that I am correct. The Isley Brothers did do a version of a tune called She's a Lady.
Okay.
I thought so, because I used to play it as a disc jockey. It was a favorite song of mine.
Well, like I said, I'm
it's
remembering
not
the Tom Jones version.
Yeah, well, it's not the version I'm thinking of, and I'm not going to attempt to sing it, but it's not Tom Jones or Paul Anka, I can assure you.
Little different musical tastes, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. In that regard, at least. I'm going to do a different Google thing here.
There's Mike Bertetto over on the far west side, the different shades of pink and orange with the white pennants. Oh, no. A double screwdriver Ascension going on out there.
And actually, I've been corrected. The Isley Brothers song is actually titled Who's That Lady?
There you go.
Yeah.
That one I remember.
But in the song, there is the lyric, she's a lady, she's got a smile. I don't remember. I can look it all up. But anyway.
He'll be over here.
Enough of that. But yeah, Who's That Lady was the Isley Brothers song I was remembering. I knew I was close. Thank you. I'm not sure who's texting me that. I'm seeing a phone number. I hate it when I get phone number texts and I don't recognize the name, but thank you for whoever it was that took the time to, clearly they're watching and listening to us, and they sent me that. So
why am I remembering the name of the balloon we're looking at on the feed as being something like Squeaky?
I don't know, because I don't remember seeing that balloon.
That's a new mousy balloon. Let me see if we can call that up. Not that one. Yeah, okay. As I search through here. Hey, and there's Mr. Winkle, one of our special shapes that we had featured on Friday and Thursday. And she's a lady being walked out of the crowd and now going airborne. It's Squeak, that one I was talking about before. Found it. It is the name of that mouse balloon is called Squeak. Nathan Derringer from Wisconsin. But this is She's a Lady, being flown for us by Tom Forens from Georgetown, Colorado. There was Squeak. So we'll put a few more balloons in the sky, I believe. A number of other balloons are going to continue to perform or stay static on the field, giving you another opportunity to get up close with the pilots, ask them about those balloon cards, get your pictures with them, There goes Squeak right behind the KOA balloon, right from the north center of the field. Good thing we have a camera on that end so we can see its face, because from our end, all we see is its tail. And there is another shot of the KOE campground balloons. Rob Nutting flying the KOA balloon for us. From the south end, here goes Cosmic Crisp. Steve Wilkinson. In fact, just eclipsing that shot we have of Squeak. The backside of Mr. Winkle. Ruth continues to wander the field and find interesting people to talk to. So Ruth, who have you got this time?
Hi, you guys. I have Silas and Miracia. They're from Edgewood, so not too terribly far away. And yeah, you're Mireya. And Mireya took me to school this morning.
Uh-oh.
We were looking at Squeak inflating, and I said, oh, it looks like a kitty cat. And she said, that's a mouse. And she was right. What's your favorite balloon on the field?
I don't know.
You don't, what?
It's a fairy one that took off. That was my favorite one.
A fairy one. Very cool. Do you like the creepy clown over here? No. And how about you, Silas? What's your favorite balloon?
The dog and the clown.
The dog and the clown. Do you guys up in the tower happen to know what the name of this dog balloon is down here in the northeast corner?
Are you talking about the white one or the orange one with the blue hat?
No.
The orange one with the blue hat.
That would be Little Dog.
Okay, Silas, his name is Little Dog. Yeah, we were trying to find out the names of some of these balloons. So how many days have you been out here this week? Every day or just today?
Like almost 3 days.
3 days. Were you here when we had the thunderstorms?
Yes.
Wow, did you have to go shelter in place?
No.
Okay, cool. Well, you guys, we really hope you come back again for next year's Fiesta. We'll look forward to seeing you on the field. Thank you very much. Bye. Back up to the stage, guys.
Thanks, Ruth. I'm glad that the folks out there can keep us straight on which balloons are which. Yeah, that is definitely a mouse, Squeak, up there. And Little Dog. And on our screen, as we're looking now, there is the Bravo Bear from Taiwan, Taipei. You had an opportunity to talk with them earlier in the week. Just a nice, peaceful morning now that the wind has calmed down as we expected and hoped that it would. And a little, I guess, I don't see a lot of balloons going back to the north, but there is definitely a parking lot up there and looks like maybe a little bit out to the west. But you have to go pretty high to get kind of north. So kind of a nice, easy, almost lazy way to finish out Balloon Fiesta. I see the screwdriver standing up. We saw it standing up earlier with the model screwdriver in front of it. And I see over by the Taipei Bravo Bear the new Roadrunner Coyote balloon. We've talked a lot about the history here at Balloon Fiesta, and the first club balloon for the Albuquerque Aerostat Ascension Association, the club that Sid started. The one that they flew as the Roadrunner balloon at that first event at Coronado Center on April 8th, 1972. They called that balloon Roadrunner because we were going to do a Roadrunner Coyote event. The Roadrunner balloon takes off, and at some point after that, 10, 15 minutes after that balloon takes off, then all the Coyote balloons are released, and they attempt to fly to where the Roadrunner lands. So the next year, Sid actually put together a Roadrunner Coyote balloon with the Roadrunner on one side, the Coyote on the other side. Very popular balloon, made it on the cover of the programs in I think 73 and 74. And my friends Barbara Fricke and Peter Cuneo and former State Supreme Court Chief Justice Judy Nakamura teamed up as one of those little clubs we were talking about, and they have created a replica of the Roadrunner Coyote balloon, right down to the large end numbers, the red pennants, and the original artwork of Roadrunner Coyote. So they worked with the Chuck Jones Center for Creativity and the Warner Brothers Looney Tunes folks to get permission to use that artwork, and they debuted that balloon at our Coronado tribute flight on the day before Balloon Fiesta started. So Barbara and Peter have flown that balloon all week. It's my understanding that Judy Nakamura has stood it up. I can see it out there, but I understand that it is Judy who has actually stood the balloon up this morning.
So I realized as I stepped away for a moment that Who's That Lady by the Isley Brothers was not the song I was thinking of. That was Ken Drawn, who has texted me. Thank you, Ken, for that information. But the song I was actually remembering, just to clear all that up, is a song called Wildflower, and it's by Skylark.
I remember that one.
But the lyrics are, let her cry, for she's a lady. Let her dream, for she's a child.
I used to, yeah.
Let the
okay.
rain fall down upon her. She's a free and gentle flower growing wild.
I like that song.
I do too.
Yes,
that's one of my
that's the one you were thinking
favorite
of?
songs. That's what I was thinking. I was remembering the line, she's a lady. But Wildflower is the song that I had in my head, not because Who's That Lady is another great song, and it's by the Isley Brothers, but it's a more up-tempo song than what Wildflower is. So just to set that, I kept Googling and I finally came across it. So, but thank you, Ken Drawn, and thanks for telling me that's who you were. I had his phone number in my contacts, but I didn't have a name associated with it. And so when I said I didn't know who was texting me, he sent me a text telling me who he was. So thanks, Ken. I appreciate that. But yeah, Wildflower by Skylark. That's the song that I was thinking of.
Got it.
That's what the term "she's a lady" meant. So. In fact, I'm going to go probably listen to that on the drive home this morning.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that'll be in your room for a while. Yeah.
Hey, the nice thing about the sun's come out is I was able to climb out of a couple of layers. I put the gloves away, I took the scarf away, and unzipped the jacket. It's nice and comfortable out here now.
Yeah, now it's just a nice, relaxing morning.
Yeah,
look
see?
there. Both of us just kind of laid back watching things.
Well, it's one of those mornings, just kind of laid back and relaxing, and you and I are just hanging out on the roof in the nice weather and
talking about balloons,
having a good time.
So I mentioned the Roadrunner Coyote balloon. As I look out that way, of course, it's out there as well as Mr. Winkle, and I mentioned the Bravo Bear. But the other balloon I see out there, the red and white and blue balloon with
the gold eagles.
The gold eagles and the gold bunting. That is a remake of a very early balloon here from New Mexico as well. That would be Sky Chariot. And Ryan Gunter, who is a descendant of some of the folks that had that balloon in the early days, he has been working on.
Because I think I've seen some old ads for Aerostar, I believe it would have been, or even back then it would have been Raven balloons.
Yes, yeah.
And that was a full-sized Raven balloon that would have been much larger. And as I recall, it would have had a blue skirt around it instead of a scoop. But yeah, I recognize the pattern now that you mentioned that.
Sky Chariot, one of the not the original, one of the very early balloons here in the Albuquerque area. There it is on the screen. So again, Ryan Gunter bringing that to us. You may remember last year or a couple of years ago, there was kind of a very narrow Fiesta balloon. It was the yellow, had the Fiesta in not quite the logo colors, font was the difference. But that had been here in the past, and Ryan has that one as well.
Oh,
so
okay.
He is kind of into.
I'm sure I'd remember it if
you saw it.
Yeah.
There is a program article from a couple of years ago about all the different Fiesta balloons that we've had.
Oh.
From that one that Bob Ruppenthal, who was a board of director member here and
Right.
a balloon meister with us. And so they kind of built this. This was their design for a new hot air balloon way back in, I don't know if it was the 70s or the 80s, and it never really took off. But Ryan recreated that one a few years ago, and now he's done Sky Chariot.
There's a good look at the Lady Jester, the face of the Lady Jester for a moment on our feed and on the big video wall here at Balloon Fiesta Park. A reminder that to say
She's
hello
back.
to, there it is, our friends Carson and Martha Lane back in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They were the original Fun Bunch, and that was their balloon originally. Many a great Saturday or Sunday morning, usually Saturday morning after flying, when we were at balloon events together, and the Fun Bunch would get out into the parking lot and they'd fire up a big old pot of Louisiana jambalaya or crawfish pie, and
That's another song.
it is, yeah. That's a whole different song.
Let's not go that one.
No, we've probably spent enough time talking music so far this morning.
There's a really nice picture
But
of the Fiesta
I'm gonna call up Wildflower on my
on the drive
on
back
my
to the
phone
hotel.
on the drive back to the hotel this morning, because that's always been one of my favorite songs.
The Fiesta Gold balloon with our Exxon Mobil balloon as well. Of course, Exxon Mobil, the new presenting sponsor
Of Balloon Fiesta and Balloon Fiesta Live. Matter
and
of
they
fact.
kept the powered by phrase as well.
That's
So
right.
Balloon Fiesta and Balloon Fiesta Live powered by Exxon Mobil. Yesterday was Exxon Mobil Day here at Balloon Fiesta.
Yep. So Fiesta Gold has been static for a while, but they have just pulled the top on the balloon and are deflating the Fiesta Gold balloon. Smoky peeking out from behind now as that balloon
from
comes
our
down.
point of view.
Yeah, from our vantage point.
That's kind of an interesting way to bring Fiesta Gold down.
I think that's Peg we're hearing on the radio,
It
reminding
is.
the pilots the launch is still underway, but if you're going to fly, be up and out of the off the field by 9 a.m. And it just occurred to me, it's not 9 o'clock in the morning yet.
It's 8:50.
My goodness.
Mountain time, of course.
Well
You
yes,
know,
of course.
We
but
know that the
still.
folks over in other parts of the country are enjoying tea, getting ready for dinner
Yeah, well,
or
isn't-
supper. Which do they call it over there?
well, they actually call it tea. That's it.
But
the
what would be the
old-
meal? Is
that's
there a
the
meal
old.
that
That's the old term. What we would call supper or dinner, in
Is
whichever
now
part of
tea?
the country you're here. In the UK, that is often referred to as tea, and I only learned that because on one of my many trips over to the UK and Scotland, I was listening to a local radio station, and the DJ would say, "So call in and tell us what you're having for tea tonight."
Oh, okay.
And I always thought tea was like afternoon tea, like 3 or 4 o'clock.
Yeah,
They have
yeah.
high tea or the big cream tea with the sandwiches and all of that.
all that stuff? Sure.
But they actually, it's kind of an older term. I'm not sure that it's universally used anymore. But yeah, they refer, their evening meal is referred to as tea, because people would call and say, oh, well, we're having a, this or that, and for our tea tonight. And it was not, clearly it was not like a cup of tea. They were
With the
describing,
little, with the little sandwiches.
yeah, they were having sirloin steaks or Caesar salads or whatever, and I'm not sure that those probably aren't the right terms for it. They were anyway, but it became
Yeah.
obvious to me they were having a meal, not having a cup of tea, what they refer to over there as a cuppa, and
right.
so it is a commonly used term, though perhaps not universally. That the evening meal over in the UK is often referred to as your tea. What are you having for your tea tonight? Well, that means what are you having for dinner or supper, depending on, because we call it both here in this country, depending on what part of the country you're in.
So here is something that is new to us again here at Balloon Fiesta. We've had them in, it's been a long time, but we have a thermal airship here again this year.
I thought we were going to have tea.
No, I'm going to send down for a soda here, I think, in a moment.
Well.
But I'm seeing the thermal airship start to inflate. Works the same way as a hot air balloon as far as the lift goes. So we fill it up with cold air, we heat the air, and there is the lift. However, it has a powered fan that powers this around so they can steer it and literally maneuver it around the field. So kind of a new attraction for us here. We'll see that airborne shortly, I believe. As we continue to just kind of slowly work our way through the field, some balloons already planning and doing just a static display for us. If the pilots are going to fly, we've asked them to be in the air in the next 7 minutes so that we can let more of our balloons do a static display for the nice crowd that we have out here on the final day of the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. And I'm watching over the very north end of the field, the Creamland regular shaped balloon. Arabelle was up earlier. They stood her up and now have put her down, and the crew has put up the little regular balloon and taken it airborne. And it appears to have gotten north of the field so that it can come back south over the field. So he's managed to find some level of box up there, Dale Ritchie. And there it is right there on your screen. Although as he comes down, there's a little push off to the west. Still turning into, this is a more typical balloon fiesta day. And it's just sad, that it's at the last day
It's
as
taken
opposed
all
to
week
all
to
week
get
to
here.
get to it. Yep.
Yeah.
Even the drainage, the cold drainage wind, before sunup this morning, that went away and turned into a nice, beautiful day. And with a little bit of cloud cover, it's not going to get very hot very fast.
It is Sunday morning, and for a lot of us that are football fans, Sunday is obviously NFL football. Megan Billings has commented in our Facebook group here that says, I'm simultaneously watching the Packers-Giants game because they're playing in London this morning.
Oh.
So they kicked off that football game at 7:30 a.m. I think Mountain Time would have been the time, 7:30. So quite a morning at my house, says Megan. She's simultaneously watching Balloon Fiesta live and the Packers and Giants game. And for the rare time, I will root for the Packers because as a Cowboy fan, I'm rooting for anybody that plays the Giants or the Eagles or the Washington Commanders to beat them.
All right.
So, football today. In fact, once we wrap up here and do our goodbyes and everything today, then I will head back to the hotel and probably get comatose on the bed. And perhaps, as I told you earlier, I'll be stretched out, maybe watching football. More likely, I'll be snoring heavily. But I should wake up in time to catch the Sunday night game. I'm not even sure who that is tonight, but because I'm a huge NFL football fan. But yeah, so I read that because there's this whole stream going on in our chat room on Facebook about somebody saying that they wanted to watch this. Are we on TV anywhere? They wanted to watch it on TV. Well, we're not on commercial TV. And then people were saying, well, I can stream my iPhone to my television set, so I'm viewing it on a TV set. And I did get a comment, by the way, I meant to bring it up to you yesterday at the awards banquet. We are on a low-powered channel 28 so that like folks in the RV park and whatnot can watch us on TV locally. But a lady came up to me and said we had not been on for the last couple of days. So apparently there was some kind of a technical glitch or something. I'm not sure what.
I know they were looking at the Channel 8 transmitter last night. The other place we are on TV is on Comcast Community Access Channel 27. So if you are a subscriber to Comcast in the Albuquerque area or Xfinity here in the area, then you can tune to Channel 27 and see us there.
Okay.
So
feeling something weird in my pockets here, and I found I had a ballpoint pen in one of my jacket pockets I didn't know I had.
From one of those autograph sessions, no doubt.
I'm sure that's what it was from, yes.
Yeah,
that stack of 8x10s that I go down and sign every day when we're finished here. Actually, for that I use a Sharpie, not a ballpoint pen. But, yeah. picking.
That way it smears across the picture.
Well, yeah, it makes your
without blowing on it.
yeah,
making it dry.
It makes the autograph look a little sexier, is what it does. And my autograph is about as sexy as a doctor's prescription. Although I had my old high school speech and debate coach once told me that the smarter a person you are, the straighter a line your handwriting is. And my signature is like a big G, and then the rest of it's just almost like a straight line, just a few squiggles. And I'm not trying to claim that I'm smart or anything of that nature. That's just something she told me, and I remembered it for years. That you look at somebody's signature, if it's mostly just a straight line, then that allegedly is a sign of high intellect. I don't know. But,
okay.
Although, and then you have these guys like in NASCAR where they have coaches that teach them how to, they literally create an autograph.
Yeah.
And so.
I actually did that when I became a TV personality.
Did you? Yeah.
And was going to start doing some different appearances. When you do that, you go and you MC something, or you introduce something, or you welcome something, or you start talking to groups, and people do start asking for your autograph.
Yeah, sure.
So I actually did kind of practice or create an autograph that I still use along those lines.
I kind of did the same thing, maybe not for the same reasons, but somewhere along the line I changed my signature, because my signature now is basically just a G that looks a little bit like the number 6, and then I sort of scribble out, and so it's G Moyer, because in the old days I used to write Glen Moyer, and it's always crazy because when I bought a new car back in March, and when you sign all those documents, you have to sign your full name, and I never write Glen Leslie Moyer, and I can't use my typical signature G, which is a G Moyer, and it always confuses me. In my signature on any of the documents related to my new car, you would never swear that's my signature. If you look at anything else that I've signed, it's like a whole different person signed those papers, and I don't understand why. I guess it's legal reasons or something. But yeah, I changed my signature years ago from writing Glen Moyer to just a G Moyer, and it's all kind of one word and scribbled together, and it works for me.
And nowadays, of course, there's the whole idea of a digital signature, so you can capture it, and that way it does actually look the same each time. Well, unless you're using a different service and they put their own font in there.
Well, and now, like when I go to get my haircut and I sign for the bill, from my credit card, I sign on my stylist phone. And you sign with your finger, and I'm sorry, I don't finger paint well, and I sure don't write well with my index finger.
I'm with you on that one.
But yeah, it's all kinds of crazy things. But eventually, yeah, I did change my signature years ago, and now if I sign something with a pen, it actually reads G Moyer, not Glen Moyer anymore. And
so if you have a Glen Moyer autograph, it's worth more than a G Moyer?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah. One's worth a penny, the other's worth nothing, probably. And how we got on that tangent, I don't remember, but anyway.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, we sometimes find ourselves going off on these weird conversations. So I'm going to go back and just read some more stuff in the Facebook feed. That's always a lot of fun. Especially when we're kind of just drifting along as we are right now.
We are. There's Olaf the Clown on our feed.
Yeah.
Here on the field, I see the yellow, orange, and black zigzag of Eric Hodges. Also saw a shot of Karen Converse's new balloon. Black and pink vertical stripes with pink pennants.
Arlene Weiss just says, "Hey Glenn, I just listened to Skylark's Wildflower. I'm 61 years old and have heard that song millions of times in my life and never knew the name or artist until now. I just looked up the history of Skylark too. Thanks. I'm a music buff and I enjoy that." Well, thank you, Arlene. I'm a bit of a music buff myself. I play bass guitar, and I currently have like 15 of them. Goodness knows why. But yeah, I'm also an ex-disc jockey.
You don't have that many fingers and toes.
I don't, but certainly not those that can play music.
There you go.
But well, again, that tangent, it all started because I played bass guitar as a teenager when I was growing up, and I played I always wanted a Hofner, which is what Paul McCartney played, the violin bass, and I couldn't afford one, so I bought a Japanese copy that was made by a company called Apollo, which I still have. The guitar is well over 50 years old. But now that I'm an adult and I don't have children, it's just me and my 2 cats, I can afford a Hofner, and I now have 9 of them, as well as 6 other various vintage and somewhat rare bass guitars that I've begun to collect, apparently, without really realizing I was doing it. In fact, I have one in my hotel room here that I just bought and had them ship it to me here in Albuquerque because I was going to be away and no one would be at home to receive it. So, but yeah, I'm an absolute music lover. My grandfather was a musician, played in bands when he was most of his life, actually, right up until well into his senior years. And I love playing music and making music with friends. And so I like good music. And that song, Wildflower by Skylark, if you've never heard it, Google it, listen to it. It's really a great song, I think.
Not that we'll get any royalties for you
no,
playing it, but they will.
I have no connection to Skylark or anything else. And I'm curious, I'm going to have to go look up the history of the band now, too, because for all I know, they're a one-hit wonder. You know, they're not a band that I have been a great follower of, unlike, you know, I'm a huge fan of Chicago and the Doobie Brothers and the Eagles and
sure
those kinds of bands, or those are some of the ones, but I never did. It was never a huge, you know, I've not followed Skylarks. I don't know any of their history. Terry Long, meanwhile, says, Glen must be tired talking about music and signatures instead of telling us all about the balloons. I know what else does she say here? I know the broadcasters are ready to get some rest. Thanks for talking us through the amazing 50. Well, yeah, to be honest, Terry, we are tired. It's been a long week. And to be honest, we've talked a lot about the balloons, but the balloons are no longer flying. They're just standing here static, and we're talking about each different one, usually as they stand up.
And it brings some other memory and story about it.
Yeah, and it sparks another memory. The whole music thing, was sparked when She's a Lady, the Ladybug balloon, launched, and that sparked a memory of this song, the lyric in the song, which led me off onto that music tangent. It's not that we don't want to talk about the balloons, or we're not, but sometimes a balloon sparks a certain memory that we have, and it does send us off on a tangent, and I recognize that. But you have to realize, too, we're also sitting up here talking for 3-4 hours virtually nonstop, and there's not always something happening directly in front of us that we can talk about. And so, in an effort to be entertaining and informative and whatever, sometimes we do go off on a tangent, and so if that upsets you, I apologize, but the balloon, she's a lady that sparks that whole memory that sent me down that whole conversation of music. And clearly some others who are listening were tuned into the same train of thought and were commenting in that regard. So, yeah.
But
we're talking about the balloons, too.
Fiesta thermal airship, which we could talk about right there.
Oh, there he is, yeah.
All the way at the north end. He's right in the, we got a great shot on the field.
He's been on Barbara and Peter's launch site most of the week.
Yes. Well, you notice that they've moved the Roadrunner Coyote balloon a whole lot closer today.
I don't want to say there was friction there, but there was some...
that thing is huge, that Fiesta thermal airship.
It took up the whole launch site, so they didn't have any place to inflate. So, yeah, I see that they have moved the Roadrunner Coyote balloon much closer to us now, which is nice.
Yep.
Did you ever send down for a soda, by the way?
I didn't. I need to do that, I guess.
Well, if you do, I'd like one as well.
All righty. So they have now told the pilots that the field is open for landings. While we're doing launches off the field, we asked that pilots don't come back and land on the field. But the rest of the balloons that are on the field now are going to stay static and will not be launching, although I guess somebody could change their mind. But they are now doing a static display because we've passed the 9 o'clock hour. But that means the field is open for balloons to come back and land on the field.
Although there's only, half a dozen balloons that are, maybe more as I look over here to the left, to the west.
But, there is direction up there because all of a sudden a balloon that was over here is over there, and then it's back again. Okay. So there is some direction.
It's not like a competition day, though, when the pilots are flying to the field already, and after they throw at the target, then they land here on the field. But I get your point.
Yeah, now it's kind of
it is a nice big open green area, and it's very slow on the surface. It's virtually dead calm now. So it would be easy. You could land on the field, even though it's a somewhat congested area with all the spectators still here.
And
you
it's
could easily land on the field with and do so very safely.
And it's always bragging rights when you can land where you took
off.
Oh
yeah.
That's
boy, that's when you're a hot shot pilot.
That's it. Top of the game when you can make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just a nice, easy, kind of lazy way to wrap up Balloon Fiesta number 50.
Yep. I'll go off on a slight tangent, tell an old balloon story. When I had my first balloon Yellow Rose, was flying out in California.
You're going to tip off our feed guys again and get them on?
No. But yeah, it was. We did a really nice flight from a launch site, favorite launch site we had out there called the Van Vleck Ranch. It was a ranch owned by the Van Vleck family, and a lot of us that flew out of the Sacramento area would go out there in the foothills and fly. And so one day we were able to fly a box. I landed right back where I had taken off from, and it happened to be, it was the 1 year birthday of my balloon Yellow Rose. So one of my crew, Marianne Layer, had baked a great cake, and we were going to have this big party and everything. And it was really special that I had landed, I'd done the box. I'd been a hot shot pilot and landed right back where I took off from. We're packing up the balloon, and we talked about earlier this week, Art, you recall we were talking about parachutes and the centering lines and how some have pulley systems and whatnot.
Yes.
So we've streamered the balloon out. I'm down at the basket end undoing the cables. No, I'm sorry, I was up at the top of the balloon. One of my crew was down at the basket disassembling the cables and whatnot and pulling the top in. And all of a sudden I hear this rip.
Uh-oh.
And the pulley had caught on something and on a piece of fabric and tore one big panel. And the balloon was 1 year old.
Yeah.
It was its birthday. We had flown a box. I'd landed right back where I took off from, and that was the first time I had ever damaged that balloon. Had never burned it, never tore it, never punctured it. And on its first birthday, we ripped the panel in the most really nonchalant way, just packing up and recentering the parachute top and the pulley snagged on the fabric. So
I love flying a balloon with the pulley on the parachute top, but I do get nervous packing those up because it's very easy to get that pulley caught up in the fabric.
Right.
Even on inflation, because if you've left it down, you haven't pulled the top back up for whatever reason.
Pull the top out to tab it in.
Yep, you can be pulling it back the other way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
you sure can.
So there, Terry Long, we're talking about balloons. Are you happy now? I hope.
There's the Putty Cat on our screen, and I mentioned Karen Converse in the pink and black vertical stripes. Penumbra, the name of that balloon. You see Jay Mason has his Realty One balloon, a Realty One of New Mexico balloon, the teal one with the white diamonds and the orange stripes. Also, he was representing one of the original 13 on our tribute flight a week and 2 days ago.
Larry Stevens says that they're having a Pegasus. You remember Pegasus, one of the special shapes here, says a Pegasus dry out party is planned for the Battle Creek, Michigan arena this coming week. Thanks, Albuquerque.
All right.
So, Fiesta continues, even if not right here at Balloon Fiesta Park, perhaps.
Someone on our YouTube feed here is saying, is this the first time we've had a blimp here at Balloon Fiesta? Technically, it's a thermal airship in the shape of a blimp, but no, it's not the first time. There actually had a kind of an airship as well in the shape of the yellow submarine that used to fly around.
Oh, yeah.
We've had others, the similar type of aircraft here in the past as well.
Yeah, the Yellow Submarine was here 1 year when we were still announcing from that scaffold you and I referred so much behind the stage.
It's been a long time.
And we had a Beatles tribute band playing on the stage, and that night, I think every official that was an official that could get on that scaffolding was up there. Including a couple of the Russian team that brought the Yellow Submarine balloon here, because that was a home-built balloon, if you remember. And they were all dancing up on that tower. And I've never seen a scaffold rock and roll and shake and jive as much as it did that night. That was a fun night here at Balloon Fiesta. We were all dancing to Beatles music and celebrating the Yellow Submarine with the Russian pilots that were here. Christine Schrader says, I've added that song, Wildflower, we're talking about, to my music list, a classic that I forgot about. Enjoy your interesting conversations and information. It does enhance the experience and relevant information. Well, thank you.
You bet. You know, if you're not happy with our commentary on the feed, you can always turn the volume down and just watch the pictures.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Or you can come out and apply to be the commentators and maybe take our jobs. Who knows?
There you go. So, yeah, people are on the YouTube side here saying they don't want this to end. Neither do we, and I think neither do our pilots, and neither do the thousands of spectators that are out here today. It is the way we all like to remember Balloon Fiesta and enjoy Balloon Fiesta. We are again on the last day of the 2022 Balloon Fiesta number 50, and we certainly wish this had been the kind of weather we had all week. But, hey, we're starting and ending the Fiesta with it, and so we'll all have great memories.
That's right.
As we move on to number 51 in 2023.
That's right.
A View from Above, the theme, starts on October
the
7th.
Yes. And I'm sure that as exhausted as all of us are, and believe me, we are, I'm sure that given the opportunity, I would certainly stay another 9 days and do this all over again if we had the opportunity. You know,
so there we go. So Balloon Fiesta moves from 9 days to
18.
18
There
days.
you go, yeah.
Well, let's just take over the entire month of October.
Well, let's just do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Why
sure.
not?
That's Neil Jackson's Flying Circus balloon we're seeing on the screen. He was the one that I kept waiting for to come in on competition the other day. He was way off to our west, to our left, and it was, is he going to get here? And he obviously didn't. But now that we see him on the screen, we can talk about him.
Yes, because that's what we're here to do, is talk about balloons.
Okay.
All right. I promise I'll stop. You know, but we're just having fun. But yeah, it's.
So put it on your calendar, number 51 for October 7th. Make plans to join us. Know that RV space reservations, if you're looking to bring your RV here, those open up in early January. So not very far from now. Yeah.
Yeah, and even pilot applications, typically you guys open those, in about March, I'm thinking.
Actually, we're starting to move them up earlier because of the amount of work that we're having to do in verifying documents and those types of things.
Right.
So sometime in February or March is when pilot applications will go live.
All right.
Navigator or volunteer applications are basically available year-round. Tickets go on sale in April, 6 months before. So they go on in April. Merchandise for the next year starts coming out in the May time frame. Typically, our calendar is out in early July, as is our new poster. That will be out in the July time frame. A lot more merchandise starts showing up in actually as early as May, June, July, etc. And while we have a theme, A View from Above, I don't believe we've selected a poster design yet, but we heard from Clegg Cawson last weekend
that we're going to continue with the Looney Tunes theme.
That they are ready to do that as we move forward with that.
That's great.
So we'll continue a great relationship with those Looney Tune characters, which also are now on the names of all of our parking lots, our public parking lots here at Balloon Fiesta.
Well, and I know that even though a lot of the merchandise comes out early, the design work on that starts even earlier. Because obviously you shared with me the design of our announcer pins early in the year, and I was at the BFA's National Convention in April up in Topeka, Kansas. Paul Smith and Sam Parks were both there, and I had a moment to chat with them, and I said, well, I guess I'm coming back to announce the 50th because I see the announcer pin's out and my name's on it.
Yep. No contract, but you're on the pin.
Yeah,
so
didn't have a contract yet, but I was on the pin, so I took that as a good sign.
It's amazing how we find out things sometimes.
It is, isn't it? Hey,
look at that zebra hat.
We talked about all week how the zebras enhance what were just black and white referee shirts that Sid Cutter started putting them in 1973 for the World Championship, the first World Championship. And now those costumes, some of them are quite extravagant, and that certainly fits into that ballpark. There's the thermal airship we were talking about. And I was just going to say, if you look way high to the right there, Art, to our east, there is Cameron Wall in Grandma's Legacy, well up into the sky to the east, over toward the Sandias. That's something else I've missed so far, this year, is the Sandias get their name because every day just at sunset, there's just a few minutes when they take on this beautiful pink glow, like the meat of a watermelon. And of course, Sandia, that's the name, that's the Native American word for watermelon, from which the mountains draw their name. And I haven't been able to, we haven't seen that this year because the skies every afternoon have been cloudy and gray.
Yes, we have definitely missed that. That said, New Mexico, as is a lot of the Southwest, still in a very drought condition.
Yeah.
So the couple of inches of rain, even though it fell, seemed like it fell only right here at Balloon
Fiesta Park.
Because we definitely did not get that much rain at my house, which is probably 5 miles away from here.
Okay.
So definitely need all the moisture we can get. Just didn't really need it this past week. But
yeah, and not all right here at Balloon Fiesta Park.
It is what it is, and we worked through it with great support from communities, agencies, etc., to help us get balloons dried out. Some obviously are taking them home and drying them out. I think a few of our shapes that set up today wanted to get a little more dry.
Yeah, I think so.
And, get it dry enough that you can actually put some heat in it without damaging it. So the ability to kind of stand it up and do that was a great way to end this. Here comes the
airship.
The airship going to come over and visit us.
Going to come say hello.
So they have taken a number of different people. I'm not sure how you get a ride in that thermal airship, but they have taken a number of different people. A number of my staff colleagues are there. Maybe we should send Ruth up there.
Yeah, how come we didn't get Ruth a ride in the airship?
Yeah, we're wondering, Ruth, if you want to go take a ride in the airship. It would be your first time today.
Say what?
Well, we're just wondering about. We were talking about all these other things, and that could be a fun shot and a fun little deal. They are taking folks for. I'm sorry. So I know, like we were talking about, that they're flying different folks around. Some of my colleagues on the staff and some other folks have had an opportunity to kind of take just a little cruise around the.
We have a special guest.
Oh, hi!
On the tower.
Hello.
We have been joined by my dear friend from the Republic of Ireland, Pauline Baker. And she and Malcolm White are here flying Hearts of Fire this week at Balloon Fiesta. But first of all, welcome back. It's good to have you this side of the pond.
Yeah,
We've
the last time I met you, Glen, you were over in the Isle of Wight.
That's right. That was that was earlier this summer, as a matter of fact. Yeah, back in May. Funny how we seem to meet each other in all these different corners of the world. Of course, the first time we actually met was here at Balloon Fiesta. Pauline is a multiple world record holding pilot and operates a balloon ride business in Ireland. And oh gosh, one of the places they launch from is Trim Castle. I was fortunate to be over there in 2019, and I spent the day with Pauline and Malcolm. They toured me all around their flying zone, and
nice.
Went to a pub, and we just had a great time. They gave me a nice little book about Irish castles. So, we've gone through a couple of years of the pandemic where international travel wasn't possible. So what's it like to be back at Fiesta?
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, we were watching the live stream last year. We were just glued to it. We obviously weren't able to travel, so it was nice to see the live stream, but it's great to be here in person now.
So we haven't got to fly a lot this year, but I did see the Balloon Hearts of Fire flying a couple of times at least. What kind of flying have you been able to do this week?
Well, we had some beautiful flights out over the Rio Grande, which were fantastic. That's my favorite place to be flying.
Yeah.
We washed the basket a few times in there, so we did our splash and dash. It wasn't a splash and dunk, it was an actual dash, so we got back out of the Rio Grande fairly quick.
Yeah. So the Irish National Championships, you and I had talked about, we had a plan in place in 2020 for me to go from Longleat over to Ireland and be at the National Championships. That didn't come together because of the pandemic. I think they held the championships again this year, is that right?
That's correct. We had it ran last week, so it clashed with Albuquerque for us. We attended the first couple of days and then we had to leg it over here, to be here for the registration. So it was very successful. We had about 40 balloons compared to 650. There's a big difference.
And another thing that I know you and Malcolm do, you don't ship a balloon over here like some of the pilots do. Generally, you're able to connect with a local and borrow a balloon to fly?
That's correct. We're flying Hearts of Fire, and that's been given to us by Bradley and Jessica Rice. It was very kind of them. They were in Ireland for about a year and a half living there, and we were able to give them the loan of our balloons. So the ballooning community, I think, is very small in that regard. You can travel anywhere in the world and you'll meet friends and you can borrow their balloons or go fly with them or whatever. It's really great.
So what's the favorite moment of flying in Ireland? What should one look to do when they're there to take a balloon flight?
We fly from the Midlands, around the Boyne Valley where Trim Castle is, so there's lots to see, the Hill of Tara, a lot of history in Ireland, as you know, a lot of castles. So we have a lovely river running through as well called the River Boyne.
Yes.
Not as big as the Rio Grande. We don't get to splash and dash in that one. But we also fly down in the Midlands where we have lakes and we can sometimes play around in those.
And Trim Castle is, for those who don't know the castle, you probably have seen it before because it featured heavily in the movie Braveheart.
That's correct.
When that was filmed, a lot of what was supposed to be a castle in Scotland was in fact Trim Castle in Ireland.
Yeah.
And you guys actually are allowed to fly off the castle grounds. That must be spectacular.
Yeah, we're really lucky. We can take off from the grounds of the castle. But a lot of that filming, believe it or not, is supposed to have happened in Scotland, as you said. They actually came to Ireland early because it was so cold in Scotland. They actually came over. So we had them there for about 6 months. And they recreated the castles in Scotland off the side of Trim Castle. It was incredible to see. And I was an extra in it.
I was about to say, do I remember
a very young extra.
You were an extra in the movie with, so did you have any close association with Mel Gibson as an extra, or you were just in the crowd scenes?
I was in the crowd scene, but the very last scene, I was watching those pieces coming out of his body, the guts and gory bits.
Yeah, okay.
We were up close. He went partying around Dublin and places like that.
A couple of pub crawls,
yeah,
I could expect.
Think so.
Yeah. So how long are you guys in Albuquerque? When do you head back home to Ireland?
We were planning on heading down to Gallup in the morning, but
that's
I think that's wet.
Yeah.
So we're heading off on Tuesday, and we're going down to see some friends in Florida, and then back to Ireland.
Not the best location planning, I might
I
add.
Know. The storm is following us around.
But I had kind of the same problem when I was on my trip recently because I landed in London the day that Her Majesty passed away. And then I was up in Scotland when they were bringing Her Majesty from Scotland down to London. And then I came from Scotland back down to London on the day of the state funeral. So my vacation planning was not the best this year either.
No.
Yeah.
But you were there for a really very special occasion.
As an American, it was quite an interesting time to be in the UK and particularly in England. Well, thank you for coming up and saying hello. It's good to see you. And
Great
give my
to see
best
you
to
again.
Malcolm. Look forward to when we can get together again on the other side of the pond.
Okay, take care.
Super.
Thanks a million, guys.
Pauline.
Thank you, Pauline. Good to see you.
So we continue to just float balloons around the sky. We have a number of them continue to stay static here on the ground. And so there's the airship that continues to just kind of float around the perimeter of the field, taking some different folks into the sky. And we just continue to just have a nice lazy wrap up to Balloon Fiesta.
It's actually a very relaxing way to bring it all to a close.
It is.
A lot of times the final Sunday morning is very, especially when it's a really great flying morning, it's very hectic because there's the rush to get in the air and get the flight, and then you land and you come back here to the field and there's the tailgating and everybody trying to say goodbye and then rushing off to the hotel to get everything packed and checked out by noon and on the road home and all of that. And this doesn't have that feel to it. This has just really been a nice, relaxing morning with, some balloons flying. Now we've got balloons static here on the field, people just milling about.
Just hanging out.
Yeah, just hanging out and having a nice day. And by golly, it's about time. It's a shame that it took us to get to the last day to enjoy this, and yet it's kind of appropriate that it's the last day, and we can just kind of hang out and have fun with everyone.
It's a great day for the last day. A little conversation over here about wheelchair baskets, and someone is answering on there that, a number of people are starting to add doors to their baskets so that people can walk in.
Yep.
And so, yes, there is more of that. And they said that they weren't real sure that there is a wheelchair basket out there. Well, there are a couple. In fact, there's one here this year, and that was the basket of the Kubitscheks.
Right.
The family Kubitschek, which, of course,
yeah,
owns the
we
Kubitschek factory.
We saw Peter Kubitschek flying his father, and his father was in a wheelchair.
And strapped in.
And actually, there are baskets built with electric seats where you can take a wheelchair-bound passenger out of their wheelchair, put them into what is almost like a racing seat, an automobile racing seat that's mounted on an electric motor platform, and they can be strapped in safely, and then they can be raised up so that they have a clear view over the bolster or the sides of the basket, and then it can be lowered back down into the locked position for landing so that they're very stable when it comes time to land the balloon. And I know my friend Pat Harwell, we mentioned earlier that Scott McClinton had to leave for a family emergency. The same thing with Pat and Susan Harwell. Susan's mom passed away, sadly, on Monday or Tuesday of Fiesta, and so they had to leave early. But Pat does a lot of tether ride business, and he has a basket with doors on both sides. So that way, when you're doing tethers, usually you have to pass passengers, you land, passengers have to climb out over the side of the basket, and then the next load climbs in over the side, and then you go back up.
Well, and usually one in and then
one in,
out.
one out, so that you balance the weight.
Exactly.
Well, in Pat's case, they could just open the doors, and one group walks out as the other group walks in. So it's a very easy transition between passenger loads for tether rides. So door baskets have become very, very popular. I think all the manufacturers offer them.
So that is definitely out there as well. Someone else was saying, I just saw a balloon with a picture of a coyote on it.
Where have you been?
Yeah. So that is a replica of one of Sid's early balloons, the Roadrunner Coyote balloon. And it's actually not a picture. That artwork is actually built into the balloon or inlaid in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you put a pattern on a balloon, you make the regular shaped balloon, and then you take your pattern and just applique it on the outside of the balloon.
It's almost like a patch you would sew on a jacket.
Right,
it's a piece of fabric you sew on top of a piece of the balloon fabric.
So the process of doing this, and actually it was Bert and Joni Padelt in Pennsylvania that built that part of the balloon. The rest of the balloon was built here in Albuquerque, and then final assembly here. But they took the big white fabric, and then, of course, they traced out and designed the Coyote or the Roadrunner.
There's the Coyote on our feed,
And then they started with layers of this. So they put layers on there, but then they went back and cut out the white. And, of course, there was a black layer in there as well, and then they would cut that out. So as you look up inside that balloon, you see that Coyote, that Roadrunner from the inside. In fact, Craig Clausen, the guy from Chuck Jones, the grandson of Chuck Jones, he said it was more fun looking up in the balloon and seeing the Coyote and the Roadrunner from inside the balloon than it was even from the outside. And what a great looking balloon it is.
It is. Yeah, absolutely it is.
And fun to fly, because I got to fly a little bit of time with that. So
there you go.
That was nice. So
But
that's what that's all about. And it's actually inlaid, not just a picture of it.
Right, and the difference in inlaid versus appliqued, I learned very early on back to my first balloon, Yellow Rose. I mentioned that the, the parachute top was a Texas flag. Well, the factory, when they built the balloon, they initially appliqued the white star. So the parachute top was just a field of blue and then the single red and white stripe of the Texas flag. And they appliqued the white star on the field of blue, meaning it was just a big white star patch that they sewed on top of the blue fabric. And when I saw that, I said, no, I'm not going to accept that. I want to be able to see a Texas flag from the outside of the balloon or from the inside of the balloon. So I want the white star to be inlaid into the parachute top so that you can see it both inside and out of the basket. And we went back and changed that. And so that's very simply the difference in inlay versus applique. Inlay means it's sewn into it. It's a part of the fabric, whereas applique is, as I say, like sewing a patch on a jacket or a blanket or whatever.
A lot more work to do an inlay, but
a lot more work, but the end result is much more dramatic.
It definitely is. A few minutes ago, I saw a yellow balloon with a black bird inflate on it, and that is a second balloon of Tony Polito. We saw him go out with the Rio Grande balloon, the Rio Grande Down syndrome balloon earlier today. So he has obviously landed that balloon, come back to us here on the field, and is now setting up the big black bird.
Now that has a lot of history here at Balloon Fiesta.
It does. That was one of the first commercial balloons in town for Ed Gallis Chevrolet. That was the mascot logo of Ed Gallis Chevrolet, and a number of people have owned that, and I've forgotten how many incarnations of that balloon there have been, but good to see big black bird. Used to be called Smiley, if I remember correctly. So that is being inflated out there on the north. You see it on the field. It's on the very north end of the field, out there where the thermal airship was taking off and landing.
Talking about the Roadrunner Coyote balloon, Sheila Gora, I think it is. Hope I'm reading that correctly. It might be just Gore if I take my sunglasses off. Yeah, G-O-R-E. Says, Looney Tunes Saturday morning cartoons, a fond memory growing up in the 60s, and now I have another fun Looney Tunes memory. And that's absolutely true. As we were talking earlier this week, I grew up in the 50s, and Looney Tunes were a regular part of my childhood. I knew all those characters, Bugs and Marvin the Martian and Elmer Fudd and certainly the Roadrunner and the Coyote. I mean, those were my Saturday morning babysitters, and in a sense, was watching those cartoons, and they are so much a vivid part of my memory. And to be back out here at Fiesta, and to find that Fiesta has such a great working relationship with what is now I think it's the Chuck Jones Creative Center, I believe, and to have Chuck's grandson up here with us. We've talked with him 2 or 3 times during the week about the relationship between Balloon Fiesta and his grandfather, Chuck Jones, and the whole Looney Tunes gang. And so, yeah, it's you're absolutely right. It's a part of our those of us of that generation. It's absolutely a part of our childhood. All of those characters.
It is. And so we are beginning to wrap down or wind down not only the final day, but the entire.
Why do you wrap up and wind down?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Why do you drive on a parkway and park on a driveway?
I don't know.
Yeah. All those. That will be an entire another tangent.
That's a whole other tangent. We could go on, and we could be here till tomorrow doing that, and we're not going to do that. But
it has turned out to be an absolutely gorgeous day here in Albuquerque.
It has.
Balloons have been standing up and flying now for a couple hours, and they have now told the pilots the field is closed to any launches.
Okay.
Balloons can continue to remain static on the field. Balloons that are in the air can come back and land on the field, but our official flight operations basically on the field are over for 2022.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so I just heard Henry Rosenbaum talk to the pilots that they are signing off their radio, and but again, the field is open to continue doing static, and if you wanted to land back here, you are clear to do that as well. So really a nice, just gentle way to work our way out of the 50th Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta.
So last call probably to do some shopping on Main Street. There is still a good crowd over there, I can see. The vendors, I'm sure, will probably remain open just as long as Fiesta will let them, for sure, and certainly as long as they have merchandise and you're there with money to purchase. But this would be officially the last call to make a stroll down Main Street and pick up that favorite souvenir. If you've not had it, grab that last breakfast burrito. If you want to get one more of those before you go. Any favorites along Main Street in the way of concessions, now would be the time to go seek those out as well.
So as we get ready to wrap up Balloon Fiesta Live for 2022, any thoughts, any comments that you want to put together about the week?
Well,
the 9 days, because someone is we're here, by the way, saying, "Oh, it's a shame it's only a week." It's technically
it's 9 days
and 10 days.
10 days
when
this year if you count
Aloft.
the tribute flight that we did. No, I guess my impression of the whole 9 days really is just how memorable we all hoped the 50th would be. We've all been counting these last few years. You know, I was saying several times, I just want to, as an announcer, I just want to make it to the 50th. Let me do the 50th. Anything that happens after that will be gravy, as it were. But I think we all had such high hopes for how spectacular this 50th event was going to be, and how memorable it would be. And it has been, but in some ways for all the wrong reasons. And yet great memories have been made here this year. Great friendships have been renewed and new friendships made. And I never regret being here I'm here for basically 2 weeks. I come in a few days early and leave a few days after. For me, it's such a privilege to have been a part of this for 33 years now. And yes, God willing, if I'm able, I certainly look forward to being back. So it's always a privilege to be a part of the event and to work with you and our great team at Windfire Productions and all of the staff. It's really humbling to think that I'm able to do that every year.
Well, I appreciate those comments. Ruth Lind, who's been out in the field for every one of those days, is now up here on our rooftop studio with us as well. Ruth, what do you think about the last 9-10 days? How is this going to be in your memory?
It's going to be a very interesting experience. We had our challenges. We worked through them. We worked around them. We did the best we could to make things happen. One of my highlights of the week was getting to be over in the drone field for that flight yesterday. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that, and it was terrific. And then getting to catch up with my little buddy Payson Cusick. He is, oh my gosh, one of my favorite people of all time. But all of the people we got to talk to this week have been phenomenal. The officials have done such an amazing job of keeping this all going and not just throwing up their hands in despair. They made it work. Whatever we had going on, they made it work. And I'm so impressed with that and so thankful to be part of this group.
Well, we are definitely glad that you are part of it as well. You bring an element to the show that really brings, I mean, we sit up here and talk about what's happening here. You bring that piece that most folks don't have the ability to see when they're here. They come when they're here with their friends, and they talk among themselves, but they don't get the up close and personal stories that you've brought to us this year.
Ruth really personalizes the experience, I think, for everyone. I mean, we talk about what we can see, but you're right down there with the people and you share their stories, and I think that makes it such a more personal experience, even for those who can't be here and can only watch us on the feed. Well done. I know how hard a job that is, and you do it you make it look effortless.
You know, I don't see it as a hard job. I see it as a fun job. There are so many stories down here, and in my own work, in real life, that's what I do is I go out and I meet with the people and I listen to their stories and bring them in, and I love the work. I love it so much. It's my favorite part of the job.
Well, we hope that you'll be with us for many more years. Hopefully we can keep this whole team together
I'd
for
love to
a
keep
long
this
time.
team together. I think it's a team that works from all of our knowledge about ballooning, our love of ballooning, our love of people, and the fact that we all have this experience to be able to bring this. And then, of course, all the folks that join us online as well, and the ability to interact with all of you.
Great online community who are really right on top of it all the time with us, and it's fun interacting with them.
And, of course, we have an enhanced PA system here at the field, so now folks on the field are able to hear us, and we've had a lot of folks come down and wave at us. And for me, one of the highlights is always the ability to get down into the competition area with the camera and to be able to bring that to you and those shots to folks, which is something that even if you're on the field, you're still a little bit farther away.
And that's something Tom Rutherford and I, when we were here as field announcers, could never do, because we were here just talking about what we could see, and a lot of times we couldn't see the competition because it does take place a distance away. So again, that's an element that Balloon Fiesta Live brings to the Fiesta experience that never was here before.
And the other part of this is the fact that it is obviously a live show, but all of the shows are archived and make them available for folks to be able to see. We only showed the drone show at night. Those people who only tuned in the morning didn't see the drone show, but we recorded it. It's now available for you to be able to go back and watch. We just talked about the wheelchair. You could go back and watch the interview, see the pictures of the Kubitscheks that Ruth brought to us, to be able to see exactly how all of that comes together. So hopefully we've been able to bring all this together for you. We do thank you very much for watching, joining us here on the field. We do plan to be back next year, and so watch us and get really wrapped up for that. As we wrap up 2022, I would like you all both to join us in the Balloonist Prayer, which we do at the end of every series of shows.
Okay.
We're going to do it in the future and wishing folks
pre-flight
as we go through with that. So here we go.
May the winds welcome you with softness. May the sun bless you with its warm hands. May you fly so high and so well that God joins you in your laughter and set you gently back into the loving arms of Mother Earth.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Ruth.
Glenn. Thank you. We'll see you next year.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been watching Balloon Fiesta Live, powered by ExxonMobil. Want more balloon action? Visit the archive of all the Balloon Fiesta Live broadcasts at balloonfiesta.com. And make plans to join us in person for number 51, October 7th through the 15th, 2023. Thanks for watching Balloon Fiesta Live. This program is a production of AIBF Inc.